I'll go ahead and open this May 2nd, 2012 opening council meeting for City Council, Harbor District CDC, and roll call, please.
Mayor Wood?
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez? Here. Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller and Councilmember Feline are absent.
Please.
Okay. City Council will be meeting in closed session to discuss item 1 on the agenda, conference with labor negotiator involving the Oceanside Firefighters Association and the Oceanside Fire Management Association. There'll be no meeting on item 2A. Item 2B, conference with real estate negotiator involving the vacant land located south of Oceanside Boulevard at the terminus of Nevada Street. Negotiating parties City of Oceanside and Gallardi Group Realty Corporation. Under negotiations are price and terms for the acquisition of the property.
Thank you. Adjourn the closed session. Who do you want first? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get started with the first half of the council meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Wood?
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez? Here. Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Councilmember Feline? Deputy Mayor Feller is absent.
Thank you very much. With that, consent calendar, please. Madam Clerk, when you have a moment.
Consent calendar includes items 3 through 12. We have a request from the public to speak on item 12.
And I would like to pull item 7, just to make a quick statement.
Move approval for ballots.
Second for the balance.
Okay, thank you very much. No comments. Please vote for the remainder on the balance.
Motion approved, 4-0.
Thank you very much. And with that, could you go ahead and have item number 7, Mr. Kern's item?
Well, the only reason I pulled it because I want to recognize somebody that's retiring. At the last Police and Fire Commission meeting, Linda Wood, who, if you look at all these things, all these grants that we get through, she is the person that puts all this paperwork together to apply for these grants. And I just wanted to let everybody, kind of recognize her for all the work she's done, for all the years that she's done it, that, we really appreciate all the things that she's done for these grants. I mean, we can't really function without getting help from other people. So I just wanted to recognize that. I don't know if Chief McCoy wants to say anything about Linda Wood retiring, but I know as he walked in, he had a busy day. So that's fine. I was just recognizing Linda Wood on the grants on item number 7. I was hoping Lieutenant Mata would be here, but I'm sure he's pretty busy today too.
Honorable Mayor, council members, thank you very much. Absolutely, we would like to take this opportunity to recognize Linda Wood. She's done a tremendous job for us at the police department over her years of service with us. She's brought in millions of dollars of grant money to our city that has helped us fight our crime issues that we have here in our city. So she's done a tremendous job. She's truly going to be missed. We're currently trying to fill her position, but I can tell you that whoever we get will have some very big shoes to fill. And Linda is just an awesome woman. She's definitely going to be missed in our department and our organization. We still have her son, so that's good. Her son's a police officer with us, but she's truly been an asset for us, and she is going to be missed.
Well, maybe his mother will rub off, and you can cross-train him into admin.
Chief, bring her up to the podium with you.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, sure.
That way you can get her on camera. That's what she wants.
Linda is never one that likes to speak, but I'm sure that if we could give her just a second, I'm sure that she'd like to say something.
I'm kind of speechless at the moment, but thank you very much for the recognition. I will miss Oceanside, only just the work part because I still live here, and it really has meant a lot to me for the City Council to support me in all of the grants that we have submitted, and that we've been able to use the money to make Oceanside a safer place. So thank you very much.
Well, no, Linda, from all of us, thank you. I mean, and I'm sure the department, I'm sure Chief McCoy and Lieutenant Mata really appreciate all the work you've done, especially Leonard. I'm sure that he's going to miss you the most, I'm sure.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, move approval.
I'll second that. Any comments? If not, please vote.
Motion approved, 4-0.
Thank you. Item 12, please, and Speaker.
Item 12 is adoption of resolutions initiating the proceedings for the fiscal year 2012-13 annual renewal of the Oceanside Lighting District, Assessment District Number 2-1991, and setting a public hearing for June 6, 2012 at 5 p.m. to confirm the assessments. The speaker is Jimmy Nutt.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Nutt, 127 Sherry Lane. If you remember over the past few years when the assessment districts have come before the council, there's been quite a lot of controversy with it, especially with the setting of the different rates. Also, the public has brought forth many alternatives. As one example, our dear friends to our north, Camp Pendleton, have gone to an independent system with their lighting, with solar systems, and it has reduced their cost and also has basically enhanced their systems out there for the lighting. This really needs to be put into a workshop prior to a public hearing because, as it says here, to confirm assessments. I think this needs to be worked on by the public first, and before we have a public hearing to confirm assessments, to explore potential alternatives that could be more cost effective. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Back to the council. Comments or a motion?
Move approval.
Have a second? Second that, please vote.
Motion approved, 4-0.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can go to council reports, please.
Item 13, Mayor Wood.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll make this brief. Just confirming some of the local news reports. Junior Seau, the football player, hero from Oceanside, has passed away and is still under investigation by the Oceanside Police Department. With that, just confirming that it took place here in Oceanside today. My comments for the council would be to the family, friends, and et cetera. Our condolences and certainly our prayers and thoughts are with the family. I don't have the details. It's still under investigation, but want to make sure that you knew that. I'm sure it's on every news channel. This gentleman and his foundation has given an awful lot back to our city and the youth around town. So we are concerned that it took place and that he certainly was a prominent figure in the city of Oceanside and will be missed. Thank you, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Item 14, item 15, Councilmember Feline.
Thank you. I'd just like to say one item I overlooked at the last meeting that will be coming up to affect us is back on April 10th, I joined the second trip going up to the Metropolitan Water District to plead with them to be reasonable on their rates and to do more like we're doing here at the city and what's happening in every other government body to cut back expenses rather than having the first resort of always raising fees. And our protests had a little bit of effect. They trimmed back the planned rate increases to a small degree, but the bad news is they certainly pass rates through anyway, and we'll have to be passing those costs on through rate to payers in the city of Oceanside as those bills come downstream, no pun intended. And just to give everyone the heads up on that. The other item, I was happy to go to the luncheon that we had, appreciation, basically meeting that we had for the library volunteers, and it's always great to recognize the people who freely give up their time to make our city a better place to live. I also had the opportunity last night to go to Boy Scout Troop 744 and give a presentation on citizenship in the community they had the option, I guess, of coming to a city council meeting or getting a speech, and I guess they felt the city council meeting might be too rambunctious, so they preferred the safety of a speech. But either way, it's glad to help them learn about our community and how our local government works, and Boy Scouts are a great organization, and glad to participate. Also, on a little bit of good news, we found out that there's actually going to be nonstop air service now between San Diego and Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. And for anyone who's had to go back to Washington, that's good news. And I'm proud to claim my itty-bitty little bit of credit for helping make this happen with the letter I wrote asking it to be done. So for all those going to Washington, that's good news. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Item 16, Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Holly. Couple items. One, last Saturday I had a chance to spend most of the day with about 120 fourth and fifth grade boys at Laurel Elementary. The program called Lead Strong Boys. It was a lot of men in the community interacting with the elementary kids, fourth and fifth grade boys at Laurel, Mission, and San Luis Rey, to kind of get them into the transition, get them to know each other, because they'll be going to the middle schools together. So I actually was working on the rock climbing wall, but we had different stations for them, and it was a really good event. This is their third annual one. Linda Sanchez, Guerrero Sanchez, from Laurel, the principal, is just a dynamo, and she's been doing this program for the last 3 years, and it's really made a difference to get these kids geared up to go to middle school. I also attended the environmental fair on Saturday, and what was amazing is I don't know if you know Bill Cox from 1-800-GOT-JUNK. He actually had filled up one full semi-trailer full of electronic stuff, and then he actually had to order another one to come in to take the electronic waste out. So it's always the most popular thing at the environmental fair, that people throw away old computers, old CRTs. I was amazed that even some of the new style televisions were starting to show up in the electronic recycling. So that's a great program for us. It was a great event down there. I got to commend Colleen Foster and Cynthia Malik about what they did for the city to bring that together down at the band show. It was pretty well attended, so it was a great event. I don't know what number of year it is, but I've gone every year for the last 4 years. And then going back and speaking of children, I am working with the Gear Up program. The Gear Up program is something that's happening through Maricosta College all the way down to the middle schools. And this year, the Gear Up program is partnering up with Junior Achievement, and that's going to be taking place at Chavez and Jefferson. Gear Up's goal is to increase the number of students graduating from high school and entering college by better preparing the students. Junior Achievement's partnership helps accomplish this mission by partnering with Oceanside Business Community, and this is who I'm talking to out there, the Oceanside Business Community, to teach young people in the workforce, workforce readiness and financial literacy skills that will empower them for their economic success. The partnership will kick off this year, focusing on 6th and 7th graders, again, like I said, at Chavez and Jefferson Middle Schools. And they need your help. The idea that people in the business community, they need business leaders to come out to teach how goods flow through the economy, what experience is needed. The materials and lessons will be provided in sample teaching guide if you come out. Just a small time commitment. At Chavez Middle School, it's Thursday, May 17th from 7:30 to 2:15. And at Jefferson Middle School, it's Wednesday, May 23rd at 7:30 to 2:15. If you have any questions, please call my office at 760-435-3032 or Tanya Johnson at 619-906-4906. We really do need volunteers in the business community to start teaching people about business. A lot of these students that start entering middle school and high school, they think about going out and getting a job, just to make a wage, and they don't think about how they can go out and create their own and creating a business and running a business. So I'm going to be talking to the Chamber of Commerce, see how many volunteers I can get from them. But I think that's important for our long-term future is to get children and students interested in business at an early age. So thank you. So anybody out there has a business, come on down, give me a call. We need you to volunteer. Thank you. And with that, I am done. Thank you.
Item 17, Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. I attended a very, very special event that was put together by Keith Haas and Roberta. Very special. Apparently it's never been done before, and this is, talked to Keith, and actually the mayor was there and gave a presentation. It's the first time of honoring the top realtors in the area, and it was a very fine event at an Oceanside beachfront home. There were so many people there, and it was just a wonderful event. So congratulations to our realtors that worked so hard to get people to come to Oceanside and live here and you know, basically talk about what a great place this is to live and work. I also attended the Library Volunteer Appreciation event, and that was here at the community rooms, and so wonderful to hear about our volunteers who literally give hundreds of hours of volunteer time, and they volunteer to do very special things, including on top of the things about, you know, like putting books away, things like that. They do very special events. They do very special programming for our kids and for our adults. So it was just really nice to be able to be there and thank the many, many volunteers that we have for the library. I also attended the Oceanside Historical Society did a presentation, an appreciation dinner, and that was Christy Hawthorne put it together. And it was also a very nice dinner at the John Daly's 101 Cafe. What Christy did was pretty much highlight those individuals who've been very important in Oceanside in terms of preserving our historical places, our history in Oceanside. Christy is, everyone, if you've met Christy, you've had a chance to talk with her. She brings Oceanside's history to life. I mean, it's almost as if she's met these people, the way she speaks of them, and just gives you this vision of our pioneers in Oceanside. So it was a very, very nice event. I want to again thank John Daly for providing the place and also the dinner, and Christy Hawthorne for her very enthusiastic event. Also attended this past Saturday the Dia del Niño. It was the 7th annual at the Balderrama Park in Eastside. There were hundreds of families and kids. It was, again, a wonderful event. This time what they did was, for the first time, and they plan on doing it annually, a pozole cook-off, pozole contest. I got to be a judge, and I have to tell you there were 15 entries, and oh my gosh, each dish was so wonderful. It was hard to pick the winner, but in the end, Daisy won. She blew us all away. There were 5 of us. There was someone from the police department who was a judge, someone from Parks and Rec. Maria Russell is the president of Eastside Neighborhood Association. Just did a fantastic. Her and the board did a wonderful job for us. So congratulations on a very successful 7th annual Dia del Niño. It was actually International Day of the Child on the 30th, and but celebrated on the 28th, which was this past Saturday. And on that day, we celebrated the life of someone very special to me and to Oceanside, especially South O, and that is Laura Hedstrom, very, very special and dear friend of mine. Just really proud to be able to call her my friend, and I'm very proud to be a member of her BFF community. She ran a daycare center for 26 years in South O on Kelly Street. She's probably raised most of the kids in South O, as well as other parts of Oceanside. She's a very proud graduate of Oceanside High, as were her parents before her, who did precede her in death. She's lost her battle with cancer at a very young age of 48. She will always be with us. Her laugh, her smile, her very generous spirit will always be with us here in Oceanside. And Celebration of Life was so special. There were over 400 people that attended. And I want to thank Paul Powpow for his words, Kenny Yarborough for the music, and class. I'm trying to remember her class from Oceanside High. Leona really pretty much planned this along with the other girls, and they just did a wonderful, wonderful job. And okay, the last but not least, I want to thank the folks at Rancho San Luis Rey. Yesterday was actually my birthday, and I had not planned on anything because I'd just been so focused on Laura's Celebration of Life. And so Saturday came and went, and I thought, gee, I don't know what I'm going to do. Within 24 hours notice, really, the folks at Rancho San Luis Rey, Holly Morton, put together a birthday party for me. She thought there were maybe 400 people that showed up. I was amazed. I have to tell you, it wasn't just Rancho San Luis Rey. We had a lot of folks show up and made me feel so proud of Oceanside. So proud of the work that we've been doing these past few years. Mayor, thank you for being there, and thank you all. I know that we got the notice out, as I said, within 24 hours. I think some people just got it within just an hour or two, and so not everyone that got the notice was able to go. And gosh, I think we probably would have had to call the fire marshal, or somebody would have. But thank you so much. Holly, you're the best. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, since Councilmember Feller is not here to talk about his 20 grandchildren, can you talk about yours since you took the trip back east?
Well, I thank you for that. I think we're having a fight here between you and I, who has the first grandchild recently. I did have a daughter back in Maryland. Flew back there to see it. Yeah, that's what I like, is 3,000-mile trip to see your first granddaughter. But follow up with yours, please. You had one just recently.
Well, no, my child's here. I see him every day.
I know.
I didn't have to do that. And since we only have the two between us, and Councilmember Feller's going to have number 20, we're going to have to tell our children to start getting to work.
Go ahead, Esther. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know that we all feel this way, but our hearts go out to the Seau family. Junior Seau meant so much, and will continue to mean so much to our youth here in Oceanside. As you all know, he was very, very active with the Boys and Girls Club. He was able, and in fact, last time we partnered, we were able to put together a recording studio for the kids at the Boys and Girls Club. That was a few years ago. But he, his family is really feeling the pain, and they've asked to have their privacy respected. At this point, I just want to just let them know how much we so admire Junior. Not just, and he meant so much, not just to the Samoan community here in Oceanside, but our entire community. So our hearts go out to Seau family.
We can, thank you. With that, Madam Clerk, could go with item 25, please.
Item 25 is quarterly budget update, and we have one speaker on this.
Mayor and Council, as you directed last year, we are presenting to you the third quarter update on our financial position, and this time Sherry Brown's going to do the presentation.
Good evening, Sherry.
Good evening. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Sherry Brown, the Financial Services Division Manager. I am presenting this on behalf of Terry Farrow, our Financial Services Director. And this is for the period that ended March 31st, 2012. Overall, the general fund on the revenues versus expenses, year to date, the revenues were at 63%. That is exactly where we expected to be positioned, and it's right in line with where we are normally at this same time every year. On our expenditures, we're at 74%, and we did have some increases in our expenditures that are listed at the lower part of this slide. Those are coming out of reserves as indicated there at the bottom of the slide. General fund revenues, in general, we've got your major categories here listed. We've got what the amended budgets amount and the actuals for third quarter. And again, overall, we're good at the 63%. Property taxes are down. We're expecting another remittance here in April to make up for all the payments April. Sales taxes, we have usually a little lag there because they remit we just got the information on the fourth quarter, so we'll have 2 more quarters that'll affect this number here. And then we've got the other items here for you. And charges for services, other revenues and transfers are right at like 75% for the quarter. The general fund expenses are at 73%. These next 2 slides show us where we're at by department. On the first slide here, you can see everybody, city clerks is a little bit low at 66%, and the financial services is high at 80%. We've got some funds encumbered there that'll be used by the end of the year. We've got some projects that haven't been completed that we need to pay out on, as well as some professional services. The other departments here are all in line at or below the 75% of expenses, with the exception of the fire department. And they too have encumbrances for vendors that they're going to be using by the end of the year. The expenses by categories, unlike the first 2 slides there, this does not include anything that's encumbered. So this is just year-to-date actual expenses. And we've got the personnel services obviously is at 75, and we've got interfund church services at 75%. The other ones are a little bit below.
Sherry, before you move off that slide, can you explain the debt service? The zero, what is?
The debt service, I believe that's a year-end entry on those. So
Oh, okay.
What happens is when we close the books at the year-end, then we move that money over.
Okay.
And what we've got here on our last slide is third quarter adjustments. Sales tax, we've got good news there. We're up $204,000 in the regular 1% Bradley Burns, and then the Prop 72, we're up another $350,000. Card room taxes are up, as well as franchise fees. The revenue sources that are down, and we project to be down, are going to be business license, our gross receipts there. The businesses pay a percentage of their gross receipts, and the gross receipts that they're reporting are lower, and they pay us in arrears. So when they're paying this year, it's really for the 12 months preceding, so there's going to be a lag here in what's happening in the economy and what we see in this particular revenue source. Our parking citations are down, as well as investment earnings, and we've got a little bit on our golf course rent and post reimbursement. So we're looking at the end of the third quarter at an expenditure adjustment of $521,000. And in the memo Terry prepared, there's an attachment A, which the city manager has recommended to make up for those. So there's line items in the accounting there to compensate for the shortfalls we're projecting in the revenue sources. And with that, that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Sherry. You could take a seat at the sidebar. We'll find out, is there public on this?
Yes, we have one speaker, Jimmy Knott.
Before you leave, Sherry, could we see the attachment A so the public knows what's being talked about? wanted to bring to the public's attention on that is that there is something called austerity budget reduction. And it's a new term which I haven't seen before into our budgets before. And I was really amused by this because it's sort of a new term which I saw. And the figures there are really questionable about where they're coming from. Some of it's self-explanatory, other items aren't. I was hoping that some of the different department heads would be here so that they could explain some of those items. But that's when I was going over some information, I was just wondering how that these came about and some of the background on those in order to make up some of the differences. So I know the public can't see those, but that's what I was hoping that maybe we could get further clarification on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Thank you. Sherry or City Manager, could you address your concerns?
Honorable Mayor, Council members, in the past, we gave you the written notice of the quarterly reports. You had asked that we come back, and as part of that direction was to take into account budget adjustments at the time we bring the quarterly report to you. As Sherry mentioned, our expenditures are below the 75%, and we're projecting at the end of the year that we will still be under our budget. But with the quarterly adjustments, what Mr. Knott referred to in Attachment A, we identify, although it doesn't identify by name the department and business unit, it identifies the object of where the austerity budget reductions are coming from, whether it's materials and supplies, travel and conference. In a few cases, it's overtime. At the 6-month report, we had indicated to you that we were freezing all expenditures and all new purchase orders. We're going to go through a different approval process. What we've done with the various departments is identify at 3/4 of the way through the year the amount of money that they had left in the various accounts. And if it was travel and conference, materials and supplies, we froze that money, that spending. And this action is going to actually take it out of the budget to offset those reduction in revenues, so that you don't have to do a closing action at the end of the year. So the reduction is actually occurring at this point of the year. I would indicate, because Councilmember Sanchez had asked about the reduction in revenues, the parking citation revenues are down. We actually are writing about 8% less tickets than we have in the past, primarily due to increased compliance, but also we will start writing more tickets just by the nature of the season, and so some of those numbers will start correcting themselves as we get to the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Councilman Kern.
Well, and that was my question, the $500,000 drop in parking citations, but I think the city manager explained that that's a seasonal thing, that as the weather warms up, we get more people at the beach. Well, more people will not be mindful of the parking rules, and that'll go back up. So it was a big number. It was a big negative. I just wanted to understand it. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Feline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ironically, that was the same item that interested me. I'm sure the citizens of Oceanside are now reassured knowing we will be recovering the $500,000 in the near future on traffic enforcement, but
I don't believe we'll make it all up.
Okay, I'm sure people are glad to hear that. But what I wanted to pursue in that was related to the red light cameras and whether or not how that related to basically, less enforcement or, people getting less tickets with the cameras now that people have accommodated to them, or just in general, in terms of the, police enforcement programs, if they were shifted due to other needs or, anything like that. So is the red light cameras playing a role in that in terms of the reduced receipts?
No, and actually, the only money we make on the red light camera program is enough money to pay for the officer to review and validate the citations. So we do not, the red light camera program is not a revenue generator for the city. In fact, we are monitoring that closely because the way the law changed, the vendor for the red light cameras now is paid on a per intersection basis, if you will. And if we are not generating enough revenue through citations to pay that vendor, we still have to pay the vendor. But if the revenues are not coming in, we have the ability to terminate that contract. We are monitoring that closely and expect to have some type of a recommendation to you probably before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so it's just basically cyclical issues, and that's the primary reason for the reduction.
And to be honest with you, we are writing about 8% less citations, particularly on the street sweeping side. We're seeing much more compliance on the street sweeping side, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
And so we will see some, I don't believe we'll recover the full 500,000, but I think we'll see some recovery in that. Simply because of the season, but we've made adjustments. We've already taken that into account in next year's forecast. We reduced those revenues already.
Yes, I can vouch for the street sweeping, because I finally have been able to educate members of my own family what the first and third Wednesday of the month is in our neighborhood, and yes, we've had success so far this year, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And while this is not something that we will realize this quarter, it is news that we got this quarter, and that is that due to the end of redevelopment, we've just heard that we are going to be getting a one-time payment from the county property taxes of a little over $500,000, which we'll be getting in the next quarter. But we got the information this quarter, so thought I'd share it with you now.
Thank you. Do you need a vote on this for approval? Thank you very much. With that, Madam Clerk, could we go to item number 23, please? That's going to be Councilmember Kern for Deputy Mayor Feller.
Request by Councilmember Feller to direct planning staff to initiate amendments to the city zoning ordinance to allow appropriate assembly uses such as weddings and wine tasting events in the agricultural zone, subject to administrative use permit.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern, please.
Holly, how many public on this?
We have 3 speakers.
Okay. Councilmember Feller asked, or Deputy Mayor Feller asked me to bring this forward because this is just to initiate staffs working with the people out there to allow wine tasting and other events out in the agricultural zone. This has to do with out at Paradise Gardens. I know they do it now. My son was married out there a little over a year ago. We did have wine at the event and stuff, but it's not really something that's allowed. So I think as we go forward with out there in the agricultural zone, that I know there's some interest in wineries and things like that. So if we're going to have wineries, we should allow wine tasting. So I think that's what we need to do, just to update our zoning with what's happening out there. So with that, I will make a motion that we do this.
Hear from the public, and then
I'll hear from the public, but I think this is just to initiate working with staff to get something, and it's something that's going to come back, actual that we can vote on. So I guess it's more of a direction to staff issue, but we'll make for a motion. So let's go ahead and go to the public, and then we'll make the motions. And
thank you, Madam Clerk, please.
Speakers are Steve Hasty, followed by Larry Balma and George Murray.
Please, gentlemen, I have 2 podiums. You can stand at the other and waiting if you wish, please. I appreciate it, and good evening to all of you.
Thank you, Mayor Wood, council members. My name is Steve Hasty, 190 Wilshire Road. I'm actually here representing Paradise Gardens. I've had the opportunity to speak to most of you in person already. Just wanted to follow up with that. This is an asset to the community to have the ability to have a place in our community where we can come and do weddings, private parties, and whatnot. Paradise Gardens had actually been a business that moved from another area due to the rezoning that happened with the 76 project. It was an eminent domain that caused the business to be moved to that location. And then now in the agricultural zone, unfortunately, there's not a box to check down at the counter to say that weddings is an authorized activity. Again, it is a beautiful agricultural area. It's a natural resource to the area, and just the opportunity to have a place for public assembly to celebrate weddings is definitely a good thing. And as I've mentioned before, one of our local cities, Temecula, has a lot of wineries, do a lot of weddings, so it's potentially an opportunity for increased tax revenues for the city as well. So appreciate the consideration for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Mayor and City Council, I'm Larry Balma. I live at 745 Sleeping Indian Road, past president of the South Monroe Hills Association, and I'd just like to say that we are in favor of this, and we'd like to form an ad hoc committee that would work together with planning on the wording of this thing. There's probably there's a horse and dog training facility out there that would maybe fit into this as far as doing, being able to do events with people. So anyways, there's probably more than what we just stated here. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Mayor, Council, my name is George Murray. I'm a resident of South Morrow Hills, 1534 Sleeping Indian Road. I'm past president of South Morrow Hills, followed Larry. I'm also the owner of Beach House Winery, which is our first vineyard winery up in the area. So I want to thank you for allowing me to succeed in that project. Without your help, I wouldn't have gotten there. I'm also a member of the San Diego County Vintners Association, so I am monitoring the activities throughout all of San Diego County. So as you may have read, Escondido has a big push.
Yeah.
Ramona has a very large push, and I meet regularly with the wineries and the winery owners throughout San Diego County. So my request is that, along with the lines with Larry is stated, is that you allow participation of the residents, myself, my wife Kim, who's co-owner of Beach House, to participate in the drafting of the language for this amendment. And we want to be successful for ourselves and for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers.
So I guess what I just reading this, so I guess the motion would be to direct planning staff to initiate amendments to the city's zoning ordinance to allow the appropriate assembly uses such as weddings, wine tasting events in the agricultural zone, subject to an administrative use permit.
Is there a second? I have a second, and Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to add that language that we work with the South Morrow Hills Homeowner Association because we have. I want to congratulate George for really going out there as a first wine tasting winery, and showing us that there is something that we can do in South Morrow Hills that will be like a plan B. This agritourism that we've been talking about. Yes, I was we've been pushing wineries for the plan B for our agriculturally zoned lands, especially the South Morrow Hills community. And this is so critical, I think, to maintaining our zoning and ensuring that we will have this mixed economy for Oceanside, especially these kind of entrepreneurships that we're seeing coming out of there. So I'm supporting this. We've been working on this for a few years now. So this is actually kind of something that is in line with what we've been doing in South Morrow, what you've been doing in South Morrow Hills. And again, just congratulations, George and Larry and the other folks that have been working on this to make this happen. So I'm not sure, I had understood that some of this has to do with the county. So some of the rules, I'm not sure so we'll be working, I guess, in tandem with the county, and this is a zoning issue. But I really feel it's very critical to ensure that we have the participation of those that are going to be involved in this and that are already pushing forward and knowing what is needed. And George, again, I thank you for taking the initiative and making this investment and making this happen. So Paradise, thanks for, I guess you must have spoken with Councilmember Feller about this. Thanks for doing that. But really, this is a whole community that we see can really benefit, not just there, but the Oceanside community as a whole in terms of our economy. So please work with the South I don't know which staff would that be in? Please work with the South Morrow Hills Homeowner Association. They have been looking at this for several years, and George can really give you some information about what we need there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, thank you. Councilmember Feline.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to say this is a great item to move forward, and I think this is the kind of forward thinking that needs to happen in this city to help our businesses to take advantage of new opportunities that are presenting themselves. And I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate Councilman Feller, Deputy Mayor Feller, on being able to get his motion through without even being here. I mean, that's true success. So I plan to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-0.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick recess.
I was going to pull my item, so can I just do it now?
Oh, all right.
Yeah, my item tonight, item 24, I'm going to pull that. It's moot now because the state legislature, lightning speed, brought it to the legislature and signed by the governor within a week. I mean, here's a legislature that can't deal with the budget, they can't deal with pensions, but when it comes to causing harm to charter cities, they can't get it done quick enough. So by the time that I put it on and the time that it came here, it's been already passed. So it doesn't do us any good to talk about it because it's done. So anyway, you got to commend the legislature on one thing. If they want to get something done, they can do it, but they don't want to pass the budget and they don't want to deal with pension reform. So I will have to pull my item.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that for the city clerk. Later on, after 5 o'clock, you explain that's been pulled. Let's take a quick 10-minute break before we can get some things done. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. If you have a cell phone or a pager, could you put it on vibrate or silent? We'd appreciate it, number one. Number two, I'll confirm for the news and other body keeps calling us. The information on Junior Sayo is true, a very prominent citizen here in Oceanside. Police department are still conducting an investigation into that death. Don't have more information for you, but it's true. And a very prominent gentleman in football and here in the community through the Junior Sayo Foundation. So that's true. We've got to get moving forward. Have some wonderful people here today, too. If we could, I'd ask you to stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. After both of those, you can be seated, and we'll start off with, please, John, welcome and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. God of comfort and God of peace, we ask your blessing upon the Sayo family tonight as they cope with this grievous news. Bless them with comfort. Bind them together in love with family and friends here and others scattered around the world. Be with them in this time. We also remember those who care for those who grieve, and we ask your blessing upon them, especially mental health professionals, counselors, and others who work with those who face such dark and terrible times in their lives. And in times like this, confronting things we do not understand, give to all of us hope and faith and love for one another. And immediately before us at the same time, O God, the things that we have to understand, we ask that you give us wisdom, guidance, and courage to make good decisions here for our community, for our state, for our nation, and for the world. We commend all to your care. Amen.
And this evening, performing the Pledge of Allegiance for us, we have Candace Yee, Health Policy Advisor to Supervisor Bill Horn, and with her, Carrie Riccatelli, Supervisor of the Community Health Promotion Specialist, Health Human Services Agency.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's hear it for him. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
That's our first presentation. Asking to come forward, we have Pet of the Month with Michelle Quigley, who's the North Campus Director at the San Diego Humane Society North Campus, and with her, Allison Sabino, the Adoption Supervisor. And that little voice is Boo.
I'm gonna be upstaged by Boo, however. So Boo has a lot to say, but he's a little 6-month-old terrier schnauzer mix. He was running out large here in the city of Oceanside about 5 weeks ago. No tags, no license, no microchip. So we cannot emphasize enough how important that is so that we can quickly reunite you with your lost pets. However, he is currently available for adoption at our facility on San Luis Rey Road, and he looks forward to finding a new family to make his forever home in. We have a couple of exciting things going on. This coming Saturday is our 18th annual Walk for the Animals down at Crown Point Shores in Mission Bay. So we encourage everyone to come down. It's a great day of fun and festivities with your dogs. It's about a 3/4 mile walk, so I think we can all manage that. Starts at 7 a.m. for registration. There's fun activities up until 12 noon, so you can check out our website for more information. That's www.sdhumane.org. Also, at our Airport Road facility, where we house our cats, rabbits, and small pets, we're right in the middle of a huge expansion and improvement project, which will afford us to have full medical services available to the animals in our care, so that we can do much more good for the animals that we impound in this great city of ours, and get them back to health as quickly as possible. Our new president will officially take office on May 14th, so Dr. Gary Weitzman will join us. We're very excited about that, and I know he's looking forward to meeting many of you. And last, I'll be remiss if I don't mention the dog park, our beautiful dog park, which we renovated last summer. It's really the place to be. If you haven't been, please come and check it out. It's great to see all the dogs there and the folks. We have our regular groups, great people, great camaraderie, and most importantly, a great time for the dogs. So thanks, everybody.
I just want to let everyone know that Boo is a fabulous dog and would be perfect in anyone's home. What do you have to say? Nothing?
He's a licker. I can tell that. He's one of those. He won't last long. A picture for all of us. You stay there. I'll move over here. Thank you.
For our next presentation, we have a proclamation in honor of Live Well San Diego Day. And we have a number of dignitaries here with us this evening, and we'd ask that you'd please welcome them forward. First, we have Nick Machione, Health and Human Services Agency Director. Dr. Nick Ifentides, Health and Human Services Agency Chief Medical Officer. Chuck Matthews, HHSA Public Health Administrator. Candace Yee, who is the Health Policy Advisor to County Supervisor Bill Horn. Kristen Garrett, Community Health Improvement Partners, or CHIP, Executive Director. Also from CHIP, we have Dana Richardson and Yenny Palomino. Sylvia Alcantar, MCH Program Manager from Vista Community Clinic. From the Oceanside RLA members, Susanna Montoya is here with us this evening. And from the board of the East Side Neighborhood Association, we welcome forward Tim Broom, Maria Russell, and Daniel Salgado. And I have one more individual, Carrie Riccatelli, HHSA specialist.
Let's center ourselves in here in the middle. Some of the good-looking guys in the back of the
Proclamation in honor of Live Well San Diego Day. Whereas poor nutrition, lack of exercise, and tobacco usage are the main causes that lead to 4 diseases: heart disease and stroke, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and respiratory conditions, which account for more than half of the deaths in San Diego County. And whereas improving personal health habits will lead to improved quality of life and result in significant savings to taxpayers. And whereas the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency has prepared the Live Well San Diego Building Better Health Initiative, which will serve as the blueprint for improving community health and quality of life over the next decade. And whereas the City of Oceanside has adopted a bicycle master plan and a pedestrian master plan to enable residents of all ages to walk and ride bicycles safely, and thereby improve personal health and support recreation programs for persons of all ages in the City of Oceanside. And whereas the City of Oceanside has taken action to prohibit the use of tobacco on the beach, at city parks and recreation centers, and at the Oceanside Civic Center. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Wood, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, do hereby proclaim May 2nd, 2012 as Live Well San Diego Day in our community. I further encourage all of our residents to recognize the benefits that a clean and healthy lifestyle can make in their lives and in the lives of others.
Thank you, Mayor Wood and members of the City Council. They're hidden. Mayor, with all respect, there's 2 people that are missing that need to be up here, and that's John Lundblad and Eileen Tuck. Can they please come up and join us? They have to be part of this. Before I begin, I'd like to just acknowledge the tragic events that have unfolded today. My thoughts and prayers, all of our thoughts and prayers, are with Junior Seau's loved ones and the City of Oceanside and the entire San Diego region as we mourn the loss of our hero. Junior was an icon not only here in Oceanside and San Diego, but throughout the nation. He'll be greatly missed. We're here today as a result of your support and commitment to Live Well San Diego, and it's truly an honor to accept this proclamation, Mayor. Live Well San Diego is an initiative that embodies the County of San Diego government's effort, along with the great city of Oceanside, to achieve the vision for healthy, safe, and thriving people, not only in this great city, but throughout all of our regions in our county. Yes, we are in year 2 of the 10-year plan to advance the health and overall well-being of the entire region, and I am very proud to say that Oceanside is the first city in the County of San Diego to officially adopt Live Well San Diego. It is now a Live Well city. And this is important, as it was noted, 3 for 50, 3 lifestyles causing 4 diseases, over 50% of fatalities. It's 3 for 58 in Oceanside. 58% of all deaths in this great city is attributed to those 4 diseases. So it's with your partnership that we're going to make a change, and we're going to improve the health of all of our Oceanside residents. Locally, here in Oceanside, the city has a long tradition of community engagement and collaborative partnership, not only with the County of San Diego, but along with all its neighboring cities, and has led a number of forums with the community. I'd like to highlight just briefly 3 of the Oceanside Resident Leadership Academy community improvement projects, and our residents from Oceanside are here. that support and espouse the goals of Live Well San Diego. These projects address neighborhood walkability and access to nutritious foods, and were incorporated in the City of Oceanside Crown Heights East Side Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Area Plan Update. These are our heroes in the community, instilling hope and health for all of our county residents. Thank you again for this honor, and I look forward to continue working with you and encouraging all of our residents to live well.
I was a facilitator of the Resident Leadership Academy last year, and we have quite a few community improvement projects that are still underway. City of Oceanside was a wonderful partner, and we feel really blessed to have a growing public-private partnership. And I was just really happy to work with your East Side residents, and I hope we get another opportunity to work with more residents and young people in the next year. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Southern California, we all tend to be active outdoors, and in Oceanside, that's not unusual. The beach, the harbor, kayaking, boating, sailing, surfing, you name it. But we have something interesting, too, the walk and bicycle path along the rail lines all the way back almost to Bonsall now, one of the most popular activities in Oceanside. Keep that in mind for being healthy. I didn't want to stand next to this gentleman. He just like he just fell out of the gym. Let's hear it again for these wonderful people in the community. Thank you very much.
For our final presentation this evening, we have the Regional Vision Initiative by the San Diego Foundation. And to present it, Lori Holt Filer, Association's Vice President of the Foundation.
If I may, not as Lori here for this presentation, but a good friend, former Mayor of Escondido. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back here in the council meeting. Miss you guys. So. I'm very happy to be able to come and share the results of the San Diego Vision survey. The San Diego Foundation has been working on creating this vision for the last 2 years, and most of it's about bringing people together and having conversations about what we want and clarifying our values for this region. And so we put a survey out on the web, and we had over 30,000 people participate in that, and we call that the choosing. So when you look at the participation, this shows you the demographics of who participated throughout this region, and then we did a scientific study of 1,000 people that is exactly reflects the county, so that the 30,000 people that choose and the 1,000, you know that they're valid results for this community. You will notice in the choosing that we had 24% of 17 and under. We worked really hard to get some students to participate. We had over 4,600 students, and it's nice to hear we're planning a 50 to 100 year vision. It's nice to know what our youth think about that future. We also, when we started this survey, when we started this whole experience a couple of years ago, San Diego was ranked 43rd in citizen engagement from major metropolitan areas throughout this country. And through this experience, when we put this survey online, there were 4 different modules that took about 8 to 10 minutes to complete. And through this, over 71,000 modules were completed, which means everyone did almost 3 modules. So they found this to be a very important conversation, and they learned a lot from it. We got a lot of good feedback. We also got participation from throughout the region. This is not about downtown San Diego. This is about San Diego and the entire county. I'm going pretty fast on this, so I know you guys don't have a very long attention span because you have a lot of other things to do, at least if I remember properly. But this slide is a reminder, they did a survey in September of 2010, and high cost of living and the lack of job opportunities were the key issues at that time. And I'm just reminding everybody what it was in September of 2010. Here in February of 2012, it's the same issues. And you'll see that throughout the survey. On the very first module, you could choose your own module, but on the Live module, we asked what are the important issues that you believe that we should deal with in this region. And this is your first opportunity to see the choosing tool, which had 30,000, and the scientific study 1,000, how close they reflect each other, which is good. We have a lot of data, and it needs to be used. So conserve water is number one. If you look at the other choices, several of them have to do with infrastructure and transportation. Protect key lands is also important. And then you'll note that make housing more affordable. On the statistical survey, it's 76%, so that's number 2. So it's right up there on what's important for this region. And then the keep my community as it is at 37 and 37. There's been a lot of changes in the last 5 years about housing and what your house means to you, and people are ready and appreciate that there's going to be change in how we build and how we develop in San Diego for the next 50 years. When this is really, as I said, about creating and understanding the values that we have in San Diego. And so when we started this, we created these scenarios, and we did some workshops. There was one here in Oceanside where people came, and we laid a great big map out on the table, and we explained to people that this region is going to grow by 1.3 million people. And most of that growth is going to be from our children and grandchildren. So we gave them chipsets that represented housing types and said, you need to place these 1.3 million people on your map. And from that experience, we ended up with 4 different scenarios. And scenario A would really characterize what we've done in the past: large lot, large home. B and C are much more compact housing, a wide range of types of housing. There's a lot of even single family, small lot, because there's a belief that there's a market study that helped us understand the types of housing people would want, but there's a belief that you still want a single family home, and that should still be a choice, but we recognize that we don't need to have the large lot. It's not sustainable, it's not affordable. And then C is also much more compact, and then D is a barbell kind of experience where it's very intense, like downtown San Diego, and then large lot, large homes in the rural area. And so what's important is that it's B and C. And the real difference between B and C is that B was characterized as a better opportunity to have affordable housing, that people could actually attain that housing, and that it would be built closer to jobs. So every time you ask, and we asked this question several times and described the different pros and cons and the give and take and the costs of these different choices, and every time you mentioned affordability and housing, people always chose B. So that's the priority. And B and C are really where cities are going. If you look at the general plans that are being updated now, B and C really characterizes what cities are working toward. We, during those workshops where we had almost 600 people participate, we never mentioned the word high-speed rail or airports, but people had colors and markers, and they could draw on extra highways, extra facilities, extra. They drew a lot of transit lines. They drew a lot of bicycle paths throughout the region and showed what that was important. A lot of the maps had the high-speed rail on it. And so we put a few questions in and added those questions to the survey just to get a sense of what people in San Diego thought about those ideas. And so here, I will freely say we did not say how much it's going to cost to build the high-speed rail, but the consultants that we're working with said that anytime you get something with a 4-to-1 positive, that is a very strong sentiment for a community, and you usually can get over the issues that would come up. And everybody says, but it's cost. Cost is so high. And cost is the issue for every project that we ever deal with. So they just thought that it was interesting that this is so strongly supported. There's also great support for a new South Bay University. We recognize that we're going to be competing in a global economy and we need more education. There's also support. We wanted to understand, do you want to redevelop and grow in existing corridors, or do you want to grow in a new area? And there's a lot of support for a redevelopment. In those scenarios, we also had some flyovers where we would show, one of the examples was Oceanside Transit Center, and we showed what it would look like in A, what it would look like under scenario B, under scenario C, and under scenario D. And so people could get a sense of what it meant for redevelopment and infill kinds of projects. This was the great question, do we need a sports and entertainment complex? And there's just under 2-to-1 support. I say that there's a 24% against it. There's always 24% of the people against everything that you ever want to do. So they exist, and there they are. There isn't any support for building taller buildings along the coast. And once again, it's really trying to understand our values. And while we might want to grow more compactly, we don't think along the coast would be the appropriate place to increase density. They also asked the question about cities and county working together, and when I first saw this question, and I came in late for the whole process, I said, why did you ask that question? We already work together very well. We have a great cooperative region. We work with each other. And they said, Lori, it doesn't say that you don't work well together. It just asks, is this the preference of the community, or would you rather have each city pursue its own vision? And clearly, cities need to hear that overall people want us to work together and come up with regional solutions. We tackled 4 different subjects. This was an unprecedented engagement process. Most other metropolitan regions that take on this issue really only focus on a land use and how it relates to the economy. But we tackled education as well as how we enjoy San Diego County. And you can see that prepare children to learn and personalized education were the top 2. And I'm going to move forward because I want you to see when you talk about prepare children to learn, these are the words that describe that. So when people chose this one, and this was really a ranking, when they chose this one, this is what they thought this is how they understood that choice to be. And for personalized education, it's a lot about technology and having students learn at their own pace, a little bit different than what our schools are doing today. And then prepare students for success in a global economy is learning multiple languages and a marketplace of learning options, and then universal post-secondary learning. So what we clearly saw, though, was early childhood education, preparing children to learn, and technology, helping students to prepare themselves were the #1 issues. And we also asked people to rank, balance this. And I think all 3 of these are very difficult to, they're very well balanced. It's hard to choose overwhelmingly any one particular thing. But I just find it interesting when you're dealing with surveys and people that these came out exactly the same. So whether it was the choosing tool or the scientific study. And as I said, we talked about how we enjoy this region. What do we think is important? And once again, this was a ranking. And so protect and connect natural lands. This is how it was described. Its communities have access to parks and open space, a regional open space network, education and physical activity, arts, civics, and culture. This one, the 4,600 students that participated, they picked this one as their #1 issue. So it's talking about more of a robust education, and they want a robust education. Now, those same students picked secondary learning as their 5th choice, but they like the robust education on this piece. Access to major community amenities is 3rd. And access does not mean physical access. You can also have technology provide access. And then access to gathering places. We want to make sure that people have access to a park within 15 minutes. And then focus on our unique culture and history. We also covered the economic issue, and we really tried to cover in this 2-year experience. We've learned a lot about ourselves, and we know that we are a 3-legged stool, and we are military, tourism, and the innovation economy, and each one of those are about 12 to 14% of the economy, and that's about 38%. So that 38% supports the other 62% of the jobs, and if we do not have those 3 clusters, and if they are not strong, the rest of us will not have a job, and that's your teachers, your florists, your restaurant owners, your plumber, your pool cleaner. Everyone else that has a job is really reliant on those 3 clusters. And and that they become a cluster because they import dollars into the region. That's the critical factor. So when we tried to explain that and show what this economy, what we have in San Diego County, what should we do and what should we do for the next 50 to 100 years? Do we want another cluster? Do we want to support the existing three? They really focused on support our local economy. So we recognize that when we're trying to put a vision together, we're going to have to talk about supporting our three clusters or adding another cluster and how it would relate to the local economy, how that would benefit the local economy. Harness the power of innovation, life sciences, and then promote the continued prosperity of innovation, military, and tourism. When you think about sometimes, so you were talking about wine tasting earlier, we've had lots of discussions on this, and tourism is 1/3 of our cluster economy. They're 12 to 14%. And we always talk about it being a low wage, but if it's still importing dollars into our region, we need to pay attention to it. And then we've also had the conversation about you need to think about the quality of the tourists that you bring in, and having people that come and taste wine. Somebody said they spend money like drunken sailors. And those are the kinds of folks you want to have come into your region, where you might have some other, like Comic-Con, we love Comic-Con, but the people who go to Comic-Con do not necessarily spend as much money as the people going out and tasting wine throughout your community. And then military, you talk to the consultants that we have, and we talk about how the military is scaling back. There are other states that are competing directly with San Diego and strategizing about how to get the military dollars that we have. And so we cannot take any one of these for granted. So talk about how, and then the cross-border mega region was ranked 5th, but I think that when we really think about how the cross-border mega region happens, it's part of our innovation economy. I met with the Consul General and I was talking about the innovation economy and how it crosses the border, and tourism probably crosses the border a little bit, not as much, but military not so much. And she says, oh no, the cross-border mega region is true for the military as well. She has lots of Marines living on her side of the border. So we really are much more of a mega region than we might want to admit from this survey. And the cross-border mega region really is about 5 to 10% of our economy. So it's a good piece. When we started this, I said that we were ranked 43rd in citizen engagement. Now we asked the last question if they were aware of this experience, and 1/3 of the residents in San Diego County are aware of what the San Diego Foundation is doing. And so this is once again more about citizen engagement, getting people to participate and weigh in, and so that we can understand the values and be of support to the government, to the government agencies, as well as the nonprofits that provide services to our residents. And so right now we're out talking and sharing the results. We'll be writing the vision up here in May and June, and then we will roll it out on July 17th at the annual meeting. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me, Lori, I want to thank you. I forgot to mention Lori is also the chair of the SANDAG.
Where we all work together so well.
We all work together, and I thank you for being a great presentation for everybody at home to see how some of these come out and some of the questions. So I do appreciate it. As for the council, any questions offhand? And I think most of them, Councilmember Feline.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one follow-up on the high-speed rail question. Of course, you're showing 75% there, and when it was on the ballot, it basically edged through at 50.03, I believe, but, win's a win. And, it's questionable whether it even has that much support now. So how would you explain the difference?
So in our numbers, we're 66, 67, 68% in favor of the high-speed rail. And I really characterize this as once again, we are trying to understand the values. And so I see this as this region wants to be able to move around efficiently and get to where we need to go. We want strong infrastructure, and we want to be able to get around. So I think it's an infrastructure. They support the implementation of an effective transportation system.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it.
All right, thank
Have
you
a good
very
day.
much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I appreciate it, and thank you. Could we go to item 26, please, and City Attorney.
And just to let you know, we have 2 speakers on this item.
Want me to go ahead and read the title first, Mayor?
Go
Okay.
right ahead.
Item 26 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Article 33 of the City Zoning Ordinance, modifying the city sign regulations.
Thank you. Public, please.
You have Chris Wilson, followed by Kevin Brown.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Mayor and council members, I guess my biggest issue with this sign ordinance as proposed is the fact that it specifies that you're going to make certain things illegal or keep certain things illegal, but then direct the city code enforcement office not to enforce the law. Anytime that happens, I have a huge issue with it because it tells our citizens that that particular law isn't important. And if one law isn't important, how important are any other laws? In the military, they tell commanders not to give orders that they know aren't going to be followed. And I really think it sets a bad example for the city council to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy, could you help him? Thank you. Good evening.
Evening. Kevin Brown, 2716 Norma Street. Mayor, council members, Ms. Sanchez, these comments are not directed to you. Well, Oceanside has sold out to corporate America and the billboard companies. Mayor Wood has said he liked what he saw in Japan and that Oceanside needs the money. The majority city council agreed. Let's take a look at what the residents of Oceanside will get. Our city will be blighted by 4 huge, ugly electronic billboards that have absolutely no place in our beautiful coastal community. Billboards are visual pollution, plain and simple. Other mayors and city councils have recognized that. It's shameful that this city council didn't. A pig is still a pig, even if the lipstick is digital. These billboards will be spewing out thousands of advertisements a day. This blatant, in-your-face commercialism will be impossible to ignore, courtesy of the city of Oceanside. These billboards will forever stand out against the landscape, always drawing attention. Thanks, Oceanside City Council, for ruining some beautiful scenery. By the way, I'm sure tourists to the area will just love the new improved Oceanside. I would expect to see tourist dollars moving towards other coastal cities. By not continuing the existing ban on new billboards based on aesthetics and safety issues, the city will forever be open to lawsuits from companies that are rejected during the RFP process. Any potential money made from these billboards could be lost in litigation. The City Council has decided on a high-risk gamble that could have disastrous financial results. Your actions are fiscally irresponsible. Additionally, there could be proliferation of billboards on private property based on First Amendment issues. This new ordinance has no standing to protect against these potentialities. The City Council has also chosen to ignore the potential for driver distraction caused by these billboards. Common sense dictates that huge electronic billboards with changing messages are a distraction. To argue otherwise is disingenuous. I pray that no one is ever injured or killed because of these additional distractions. If that does happen, it will be on your conscience, gentlemen, that you allowed them to go in. I can at least say I tried to stop them. I look forward to the day when we have elected officials that care about the environment and its citizens and not just about money. Shame on this city council for this outrageous decision to allow digital billboards.
Thank you, sir.
That's all the speakers.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern.
Move approval, but I have a question. I know we passed this one, but where are we at on the downtown sign ordinance? We've been struggling with that for a couple years. Is this the appropriate time to ask that question or not?
Well, the downtown sign regulations are included within the comprehensive sign ordinance update that you introduced last week.
Okay. So when we talk about perpendicular signs downtown, I mean, that was this just came up in a meeting yesterday with Main Street about the ability to do perpendicular signs.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, there are downtown district sign regulations within this ordinance that you are approving. I think the Economic Community Development staff is going to come forward with amendments to that at some point in the future, to enable alternative types of signs, but those discussions that have been ongoing in the past about changing those are not included within this.
Okay.
There is, though, an Article 12 section in here.
And I guess that my question is, at what point in the future? So I would like to see it within 60 days or something. I mean, we've been struggling with this for 3 years. I'd like to bring it back. To answer the gentleman about the non-enforcement, we're not enforcing it too. We're working with the chamber and staff to come up with rules. I mean, so it was a moratorium on enforcement. It wasn't that we're going to do it. We're a moratorium on enforcement until we come up with rules, and the chamber's working on it with staff. So when that comes back, I would like to at least see the other one come with it.
Well, my office can work with the staff to bring future downtown sign regulations forward for your review.
Okay, thank you. But I move approval for this.
Was there a second? I have a second. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to state the basis for my voting against this, and basically it's to summarize the first hearing on this. This is, as proposed, is not consistent with our general plan. This will lead to billboard blight. We're talking about 5 + 4, a total of 9 billboards to begin with. There's certainly danger of having even more than that. This is going to lead to litigation against Oceanside. Any hopes of getting any revenue, if the idea was to get revenue for the city, are going to be, it's just misplaced here, because essentially what we're talking about is a law that we currently have, which is a ban, a complete ban on billboards, except for the 5 existing that we have, which are on private property. That was via a settlement. Those 5 were a result of a lawsuit against our city. Removing our current ban means that we are going to be subject to, again, a statute of limitations, renewed statute of limitations. That means we will be sued. Why shouldn't we be sued? I mean, we're basically saying, you know, our ban, we don't really want a ban. Our ban was based on very narrow grounds, and that is aesthetics and public safety, where we're basically saying we don't care about aesthetics, we don't care about public safety. We're not only increasing the number of billboards to 9, we are going to make them more flashy. They're going to be up to 4 seconds, or down to 4 second change. It's going to be changing the message every 4 seconds. So first lawsuit, of course, is the ban and not enough billboards. Second lawsuit is going to be from the existing billboards, because they're going to basically say, well, we should be treated equally. You can't have one rule for the city and one rule for the private sector. It's just not fair. So second lawsuit is going to go towards making our current, the billboards that currently are sited on private property, to go digital. That's the second one. And then the third lawsuit, and Los Angeles has 20 right now, 20 lawsuits. I don't know how many we're going to end up with, but the next lawsuit is going to be from anybody that did not get to be picked on an RFP, with 6 national sign companies that are multi-million-dollar organizations that have multi-million dollars to spend against cities, along with what I hear over hundreds of smaller sign organizations or sign companies. It's going to be outrageous, and this is not what our city was hoping to do. We've been talking about cleaning up Oceanside and having a better image for Oceanside for the last 20 years, and this is not the direction to go to give Oceanside a better image. This is, I think of that movie, Beetlejuice. This is like that, Beetlejuice. If you remember the signs, pointing to the whorehouse, it was like here, come here. It's terrible. It's terrible what is happening to Oceanside. So I grew up in this town, and I do remember the red light district, Mission and Hill. And I remember reading about, the homicides that happened downtown under the, at the pier, whatever. And we've come a long way from that. The downtown was raised. If you remember, there was a park where the theater is now. That was what we gave. We gave that land, that huge block, to Macmillan for $200. That's the city of Oceanside. And the whole idea was we're going to allow this to go so that we can invest in a better future for Oceanside. Lost a lot of money in that deal, but the whole idea was to move redevelopment forward. I don't see how this is improving Oceanside at all. This is going backwards. So I'm concerned about the lawsuits. I'm so I guess the whole idea that we had a vote based on somebody suggesting that we can get $40 million, which has never been even hinted at before the last hearing, and certainly has not been repeated. That was a statement that has just completely baseless. So this is terrible for Oceanside. I also do not like the idea of passing. We could have made, in terms of the on-site signage, we could have made information, the law much more relevant to what we need. The twirlers and that kind of stuff, we could have gone ahead and legalized that instead of calling that, making that illegal. So this is not the way to do anything. On top of, we had 2 legal professionals, specialists, telling us, don't do this. So I'm voting no. Thank you.
Councilmember Feline.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is one of the difficult decisions we have to make as a city. There's, certainly no easy path in making this decision, and certainly for my vote, the appeal to have some revenue come into the city to help preserve some of our vital services influenced my decision. And, and I guess when I drive on the freeway and I'm in urban areas, I guess I don't consider digital billboards blight. You glance at them a few seconds and you're on your way. And if glancing at a billboard helps keep our libraries open, helps keep some park and rec programs going, helps preserve some public safety and the challenges that we have, I think I'll go with the billboards any day. Now, I will also gladly concede that it's not a risk-free option, but how many decisions in life are risk-free? Yeah, there's a potential of lawsuits, and anyone, anytime, any day can file a lawsuit in court for any reason. And maybe we'll have it and maybe we won't, but I think the upside potential for the revenue exceeds the downside risk represented by the lawsuits, and I think this is just one of the tough trade-offs we're called to make in our economically challenging times. And I think the inflow of revenue and the gains that we can get from that offset any any supposed blight that the digital billboards would represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-1.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can we go to the closed session report from our city attorney, please?
Okay.
Thank you. The City Council met in closed session earlier this afternoon to discuss the status of labor negotiations involving the Oceanside Firefighters Association, Oceanside Fire Management Association. There's no reportable action at this time. There was no meeting on item 2A. With regard to item 2B, Council met to discuss the status of negotiations on a real property matter involving the vacant land located south of Oceanside Boulevard at the terminus of Nevada Street. Negotiating parties were City of Oceanside and Ghilardi Group Realty Corporation. Under negotiations are the price and terms for the potential acquisition of the property. There is no action to report at this time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Madam Clerk, item 19.
Item 19 is communications from the public regarding items not on this agenda. We have 4 speakers. Please come to either podium. First is Keith Simonson, followed by Francis Kazurski, then Charles McVeigh, and Ruben Almada.
Good evening, everybody. How are you,
and the
sir?
city council members, and the citizens of San Diego County. I'm here on a concern with the street sweeping signs on either side. I reside at 4556 and Slayton in the Riverdale community, and on both sides of the streets, on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday, they have the signs up that states you can't park on either side throughout the whole neighborhood. And those of us that have to park on the street, we have nowhere to park. I'm an injured, disabled person, and I have a hard time sleeping at night due to my injuries. And when I do go to bed, I'm on medication, and at a certain time, you know, of the morning, I can't make it up to move my car, but I don't have the opportunity to park on the opposite side. So what I'm trying to get across to you guys, maybe you could do it from a certain time to a certain time in the morning on one side, and a certain time to a certain time in the evening on the other side. You know, that's, you know, I've received 2 tickets, you know, for this. I contested the first ticket. The second ticket I wasn't in town for, able to contest it. When I go to the 300 building, they tell me basically it's nothing you could do about it. I'm unemployed, you know, I don't receive any type of funding. So I'm asking, you know, give us the opportunity to park on one side of the street. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no parking for you, and no driveway, no nothing?
No parking nowhere in the neighborhood. I drove from street to street looking where I could park my car, so I wouldn't have to get up so early in the morning. The whole neighborhood is sold out.
Hold on. See if the city manager has a suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Mayor Wood, members of the City Council. I would just like to address briefly the death of Junior Seau. Approximately a month ago, I visited a staff member of a nonprofit organization that helps children. These children are actually being kept from falling through the cracks and being in the streets. This organization actually helps children and families from staying out on the streets. About a month ago, I met with the staff member and suggested that she come to Oceanside and meet Junior Seau because he has a recording studio here in town. The recording studio is open to record children. I thought maybe they could make a Christmas album for the holidays. Today, I learned through the news media sources that Junior Seau is deceased. He died at his home in Oceanside. I'm really shaken up over this tragic news, and I'm asking the city council members to please keep an open line of communication for the community that we might know where condolences can be sent, cards, letters can be sent. Many times people that work in the NFL, sports figures, it's difficult to keep in contact with them except through email. So if you have any business address that we could send condolences or cards to the Junior Seau family, that would be most commendable. Number 2, I'm asking for your prayers for the family. And number 3, tomorrow, which is Thursday, is the National Day of Prayer for our nation. And it says up here, liberty in God we trust. And I'm asking for your prayers for the Junior Seau family today, tomorrow, and also for our nation. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name. Sorry.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Ruben Almader. I live at 1215 Division Street. Good afternoon, City Council, Mr. Mayor, and City Attorney. As we all know, once again, there's somebody else has been hurt. There was a shooting yesterday on Division Street, Crown Heights. And as we all know, we've probably seen that in the paper whatsoever, that this is an ongoing thing. That's it's not the first time it's happened. It showed I had made a statement that said that we're out of time. Well, I'm here not for myself. I'm here for my family and for my neighbors. One of them is here with me. for the next city council meeting. The rest of a good majority of the neighborhood would like to attend. And one of the things that we'd like to have put on the next agenda is it's people. We've spoken about cameras before. It's been a touchy subject, but we have special circumstances in the neighborhood where people are getting hurt constantly. People are getting, and there was someone in the article from yesterday mentioned that, you know, it takes us a stray bullet. I had sent a letter in saying that that's one of my worst fears, is that that's what's next. So that's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to get hurt, and it already has. So what the neighborhood is really asking for is, amongst, you know, help in all directions, is for cameras and an intervention program that would be a private intervention. There's a lot of families, the good families, there's a lot of bad, but there's also a lot of good. And these parents that can't control their teens no longer, whether they be in a gang or whether they're headed in that direction, are asking for help. These are the good people, and they're asking for that type of help, which costs a lot of money, but there is programs out there that do provide that, where they actually can sign them up for it. We have our community meetings, and some of these parents are asking, well, they'd like to sign them up where the police would just take them. Well, we all know that the legal system doesn't work that way, but that is one of the things that we're going to be asking for. So, and also, I please ask you guys to help, because if anybody could just think for 1 second, if they were in my shoes or in anybody else's shoes, that's an innocent person that's living there, can't just move into another house at the time. And you had a shooting right in front of your house. The neighbor next to you is now dead, and 2 houses away somebody else got hurt, and you have a 2-year-old and a good wife. I don't think anybody wants to be put in that situation. So we're asking for help right now. Also, I'm Hispanic, and I don't mind if I was pulled over on a daily basis. My family is more important to me than my pride when it comes down to being able to set up checkpoints and be able to take care of this crime and let any entity come in and take care of the problem, because that's the only way it's going to be able to be addressed. We've tried a lot of different factors. The community has come together, but it's going to take tough love to come in there and just clean it up. And the good people that are still there, you don't want Reuben to move away. You don't want the good people to move away. You want that to be a place where people can eventually say, just like in other cities, they say, oh, Reuben lives there. Oh, I wouldn't mind living there. You don't want the good people to move away. So please, I'm asking you to help us in the sense, we need those checkpoints. We need cars to be pulled over where they can find hopefully a bunch of weapons. My family and my neighbors are more important than my pride. So
thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We can't really respond because you're not an agendized item.
I understand.
However, you can be assured that every council member up here, including myself, is talking to the chief of police over the last few days, if not the last few weeks, regarding this issue, and explained our concerns. It was in the paper this morning, our concerns about this are going. I did make a statement in the paper for everybody else. I hope the neighborhood, the good people in the neighborhood, try to assist us and the police department, but you'll be contacted, like everybody's neighborhood, what's an ongoing situation, and I thank you, sir. Otherwise, I can't address it.
And I assure you, we are coming together, and people are calling in, but it's going to take a lot more.
I understand, sir, and it's tough when you live in a neighborhood to call in, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Good evening, sir.
Yes. My name is Charles McVeigh, also known as Chuck. I reside at 200 North El Camino Real. Mayor, councilman, members, I'm going to remind those who may have forgotten or do not know why Oceanside enacted the mobile home rent control ordinance in the first place. It was enacted in 1984 to protect the homeowners from the unreasonable rental increase park owners were charging the homeowners. And they had 2 choices, pay or walk away, allowing the park owners to take possession of their homes because the park owners controlled a very captive market, just as San Diego Gas and Electric. And I'm sure no one would like for San Diego Gas and Electric to not have controls to control them. Council members Kern, Feller, and Feline would have you believe basically the control will not affect current homeowners. Nothing could be further from the truth. The out-of-town millionaire trust babies who inherited these parks, and I might add, without investments whatsoever, because from out of the past comes the thundering voices of the greedy park owners bragging about price gouging the veterans, seniors, disabled, and less fortunate with unreasonable rent increases. This was before rent control. This is music to these trust babies' ears. They have attempted to circumvent the current rent control ordinance through courts, but failed every time, including the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the homeowners' favor. Now they have enlisted the help of council members Kern, Fellow, and Feline with lavish contributions to their campaign coffers. Vacancy decontrol will put the chicken back in the chicken house. You guessed it, chicken getter again. Amy Epstein would have all to believe park owners may have to sell their parks for lack of enough income. What Amy does not tell you is the several mobile home parks their family own in San Diego County. One of these two of them are in Oceanside, and one is Mission View West, where I was informed by one of the residents who purchased a new expensive home and located in Mission View, was later informed the lease for the park was expiring and would not be renewed. Yet they allowed her to move in there at this time, knowing with full knowledge that the lease would not be removed. Now, this is what I was informed. If that was not bad enough, the park has adopted new rules which make it virtually impossible to sell or move their homes. If they have to abandon their homes, the park owner will take possession. Is it just by circumstance that those park owners own a business that sells used mobile homes? And also, Amy Epstein would have all to believe they can't scrape up enough money to fix a pothole.
Wind it down, please. I'm sorry.
Kern, Feller, and Feline, won't you, it's not too late for you to wake up and admit you were wrong and campaign for a no vote on Proposition E and F. I also plead with Oceanside voters to vote no on Prop E and F and help save our veterans and seniors' homes. Honesty and truth will overcome false and misleading information every time. I will personally give each of you a vote on no on Proposition E and F button. I'll see you at our victory rally.
Thank you, sir.
That's all the speakers.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, could we go to public hearings, item number 20, please?
Item 20 is the CDC hearing, adoption of a resolution approving conditional use permit and a regular coastal permit to allow for a Stone Company store located at 310 North Tremont Street. The Stone Company store applicant is Stone Brewing Company.
Thank you very much. As the chairperson, I'll open this public hearing. Request disclosures from commissioners regarding constituent contacts, correspondence. I'll go with you first, Gary.
I visited the site.
Staff?
I spoke with staff, and I also drive by this on a regular basis.
Yeah, I've been on site, staff and public.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, correspondence or petitions?
We received correspondence from Nadine Scott, which was forwarded to council.
Thank you very much. With that, Tippin, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission and City Council. Today we're looking at approving a resolution for a conditional use permit and regular coastal permit to allow for a Stone Company store located at 310 North Tremont Street, as shown in the slides. The existing site consists of an existing 952 square foot commercial building that was built in 1966. The zoning ordinance requires that a conditional use permit for retail sales, in addition to on-site alcohol consumption connection with the making of the microbrews offer for sale on the premises, so this is the need for the conditional use permit. The proposed business includes a retail sales of Stone Company's merchandise, including apparel, glassware, sauces, soaps, and dog treats. The applicant also proposes a tasting area for beer samples, keg sales, and filling reusable jugs called growlers for patrons to join at home. I'm going to show you some of the slides. This is the proposal. Let me look at through my glasses. This is the location of the project. You can see there's the parking lot, has 44 parking spaces next door. This is a public parking lot, and also some parking over in this area. Civic Center Drive, Coast Highway, North Tremont Street, Purvey Way. This is a close-up of the floor plans They're adding 2 new restrooms here. This is an accessory building, the cooler to cool the beers, kegs, and this is the storage area. They're adding some boulders, gas pit, and this is the for the handicap access. This is they're adding a new door or glass area. This is the storage, and this is the next 3 or 4 slides are the typical outlet that they have in, I believe, in San Diego. So this is what the retail store looks like. That's the beer area. And that's essentially it. The hours of operation are from Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. No food service is planned, but they want to have the opportunity to cater to certain events. Delivery and services are from the rear or the alley, and pedestrian and handicap access is right off here off the front in this vicinity. As I mentioned, there's tenant improvements, including the addition of the 216-foot accessory building for cooling of the beverages. In regards to the beer manufacturing branch license, a licensed beer manufacturer may sell and deliver beer from branch's office located away from his or her place of manufacturing and exercise his or her license privilege other than manufacturing at or from the branch offices. So they're allowed to have these beers as long as it's from a different area, manufacturing different area. The police department has reviewed the conditions of the project. Lieutenant Sadat is here from the police department, and they concur with staff's recommendations. Staff has reviewed the operational characteristics of the store and believe that the proposed project as conditioned will not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. The store is situated in the commercial area, and its use is consistent with the surrounding area commercial land uses such as retail. Proposed management plan, which is the project's condition to have a management plan, with the restrictive conditions that the business is required to operate will not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood, which is what staff is with concern. From a fiscal impact, the applicant is proposing to hire 4 full-time employees and 10 part-time employees. In addition, the applicant proposes to provide $150,000 of site building improvements and site improvements. With that, staff would recommend that the Commission adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit RCUP 12-00002 and regular coastal permit RRP 12-0001 for the Stone Company store, again located at 310 North Tremont Street. This concludes staff's presentation. Unless there's any questions, the applicant's representative here, the architect is here, the Stone spokesman is here, as well as I mentioned, Lieutenant Sadat from the police department is also here to answer any of your questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And one quick question before I go this. I know we got a letter from Nadine regarding the parking. These were built in the 40s, and we got a parking lot next to it and street parking. Could you explain the circumstances why we don't require parking because it's a 40-year-old building? But please.
In all of the downtown, Honorable Mayor and council members, in all of the downtown for the past several years, we have not required parking in existing buildings for the simple fact that there is no parking. We've done numerous parking studies. We had a parking study that was done in 2002, 2003, and as recent as 2008, where we did an analysis of the parking and the situation as it currently stands today. All the analysis said that under today's current standards, there is no parking problems, in particular on the east side of the tracks. As with future development, especially on the vacant lots, we're requiring all new development to provide on-site parking for all the new development, but it would be virtually impossible to have existing buildings provide parking, since if we required that, there would basically be a lot of vacant buildings in the downtown. Every conditional use permit that we've processed over the last several years, we don't address the parking because we know that, again, these parking studies have been done over the last several years. And we did build the North County Transit parking structure, and we're hopeful that we can build yet another parking structure on Lot 23, which will again help accommodate some of these off-site or off-street parking issues in the future when development really warrants a parking.
Thank you very much. Applicant and public, would you go forward with that, Holly?
At this time, if the applicant wishes to speak, you have a total of 20 minutes for a presentation and rebuttal. And please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone, council members, mayor. My name is Chris Carroll. I'm a representative of Stone Brewing Company. We're located in Escondido at 1999 Citricado Parkway. I've been with Stone Brewing Company for almost 7 years. I've been integral in the development of our company store in Escondido, as well as our San Diego location in the neighborhood of South Park. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have as a community, as we want to be great community partners.
Thank you. Yes, you explained you have 20 minutes for the public will speak and rebuttal. You can save that time for later, or if you have people here you want to speak, that's up to you, or we can call you up. Either way. You've only used like a minute or so, so you got like 19 plus. You can always respond later or whatever.
If we're all pleased to move along, I'm just basically here to answer questions, as I think most of the points have been covered as we've been working with the city to make sure that all points are covered in operating a business that we're all on board to do. So.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And if you do have to respond, you've got plenty of time. With that,
okay.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak on item 20, please come forward to either podium. Please state your name.
My name is Matt Morosco, and I live at 1615 Quiet Hills. Honorable Mayor and council members, I just wanted to speak, urging you to vote yes on the conditional use permit. Craft beer is very important in San Diego. I'm sure some of you are already familiar with the community that's involved with that. There's a lot of people that tour different facilities. Big tourism draw. This week is Craft Beer Week, or the Craft Brewers Conference in San Diego. That brings a lot of tourism as well. So I think this addition could bring a lot of tourism to Oceanside. The proposed location is also where the Sunset Market night is, which would potentially bring more people in for that as well. It brings a little more diversity to the city. Currently, we have OAW and Breakwater as far as brewing establishments. So it kind of gives us more options, and I think it's great for the city. And Stone always follows great business practices and supports the community. They reinvest a lot of their money back into the communities in the area. So that's all.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Madam Clerk, I see none. I close the public hearing and come back to the council. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I do have some questions. And I thank you, staff, for addressing the parking issue, because that was a question I had for the city manager earlier today. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to read the staff report until today, and I apologize for, but thank you very much for getting back to me. And in that short period of time, the basic question I asked for the city manager was, why isn't parking even discussed at all in the staff report? We're going from a pottery store to a brewery. And I don't know what the parking issues, what parking differences there would be between the pottery and beer. I really don't know. Didn't want to guess. And since we know we have only $11 million in the redevelopment funds, and we prioritized that, and we've already talked about how we need to provide parking, and that the 5-block project is going to be moving forward, so that therefore parking is becoming more and more of a problem. I asked about that. I thought it was very odd that in a redevelopment project we were not addressing parking at all. Not even a parking management, requiring a parking management plan, and to at least give us a heads up on how the parking is going to be changing with every business that comes into Oceanside. That was my issue with parking, and so I asked the city manager and basically the staff to get me whatever documents there were in terms of parking and what applies to this area. What I was given by the city manager was a staff report from September 2003, presentation and acceptance of the Oceanside Downtown Parking Study. And that study basically asked the council for direction. Well, what do you want to do, council? Do you want to, A, require each new and redeveloping business to provide its own parking, or B, the city will provide parking and plan structures with adequate in lieu fees and or development fees? So bottom line, what I understand is that we decided to adopt B, and that is go with in lieu. And basically working with the business and partnering with the businesses to be able to provide enough parking for employees. And here we're talking about 4 plus 10 part-time, 4 full-time, 10 part-time, as well as the additional whatever business customers that are going to be coming through here. There is no discussion about a parking plan, and certainly no discussion about an in lieu fee, and we are short on our funding for building parking lot 23 and 26. So whether it starts after this project or we at least get a parking management plan so that we know how our parking requirements are changing, we need to have those kind of things addressed. That's my big issue here, is that we're completely ignoring it. And we're ignoring it because of some past council action that said, okay, we're not going to require that you provide parking, but we're going to work towards in lieu fees, which I guess never materialized. So this apparently never got to, this is a local coastal plan requirement. This never got to be adopted formally as an amendment to our local coastal plan in terms of, and it is a public access issue. In your staff report, you talked about public access in terms of blocking people from going to the beach, and public access with respect to views, but you didn't discuss public access with respect to parking. And that was, I think another omission. So what I'm saying is I want the business and I want to be able to get businesses to come, but we also need to ensure that people don't drive around and say, okay, I can't find parking, so I'm not going to go to Stone Brewery. I'm going to go to Escondido instead. I don't want that to happen. I drive by this area pretty often during the week, and I know it's very difficult to park, especially you can't even park in front of there for the evening market. Of course, you can't. So parking is becoming a challenge for us, and we know it's going to become a huge challenge when we lose those 5 parking lots that are being phased out. So what are we planning for the future? Can we require, on this project, can we require at least a parking management plan so that we know, we have it on the books, this is how many parking this is how much we require for this business. How is it going to impact other businesses in the area?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Sanchez, I wish nothing more than I saw that staff report and I read through. There were several recommendations as part of that staff report, and I wish nothing more than the fact that we would have gotten direction from council back then to implement many of the suggestions that were part of that. Unfortunately, we did not, and we didn't codify any of those things, so therefore Trim Up Bar and Grill, Beachside Grill, Cabo, Davina's, none of these other businesses we've required any kind of parking management plan. So I think staff at this point feels like it would be penalizing Stone Brewery if we were to require that at this point. But I think as staff goes, we would be more than happy to bring back a proposal and look at implementing in lieu fees, and there were several good suggestions as part of that staff report back in 2003.
So can we at least get a sense of what the parking difference is going to be for going from a pottery store to a brewery?
Well, basically, it's not really. Previously, the pottery store we considered retail sales, and technically, this operation is also retail sales. They do sell beer in the growlers, I guess they're called, and then there is some ancillary beer tasting, but that's not the primary focus. They do primarily they do a lot of the retail sales in the growlers. So again, we're technically going from retail sales to retail sales. So if you were to look at straight parking analysis, if they were a restaurant, that'd be different. If they were going from retail sales to a restaurant, there would be obviously higher demand parking. But in this case, we didn't see that as a.
How many employees were in the pottery store? Do you know?
Probably not that many, because it was fairly empty most of the time.
Yeah,
and again, we're trying to encourage more lively businesses in the downtown. That was as adorable and cute and fun as the things that they sold there were. We're more than happy to have Stone come into the downtown. We think that's going to be a great addition to the downtown. We don't have anything like that in the downtown right now, so we welcome it. And there's lot 23 right now. That's where most of the employees park in the downtown for a lot of the businesses in the downtown. So again, we don't see that as being a problem. But again, I would love nothing more than to come back with a proposal for some kind of program to start collecting in lieu fees. And
can I ask a representative from Stone to come up? So I'm sure that part of the business plan was ensuring that there was going to be, or having at least a number in terms of customers, a goal of customers going in and out. Do you have a sense of how many people will be coming in and out of your business?
I don't have a great sense of that. I can base, what I speak to off our South Park location. It's more of a drop-in, drop-out type location. You're not going to spend hours and hours at our establishment. If we can provide flexibility by talking with the city about doing some green stripes that are 30 minutes or less or something like that to alleviate some of the parking issues, we'd be willing to move forward in that respect. So, the reason we chose this great location is because of the walkability, because of the proximity to other great locations. So, we don't feel that, that many people would even want to drive here, because we do have our home base in Escondido. We do have a location in South Park. So we want local residents, they can get on their beach cruiser. They can walk on down. We don't think we'd have a huge impact on parking. We love that the city lot is next to us, and that was a big factor in us picking this location because,
right.
It would not have an impact. With the small square footage of what we're looking at, it's not going to be impacted with, tons of people all the time. It's not the environment we're looking for. So.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with your South Park. Do you have a parking requirement that you have to meet there?
It's actually only street parking down there. There's no available lots. Parking actually is a challenge down there, so we've recently implemented a program to give a discount to people who ride the bus, take a shared car to go, or ride their bike. So we're actually trying to alleviate the parking issues down there because, it is a concern for the residents. Whether it's us or an ice cream store, they're still going to have the same challenges. We're just looking to alleviate it for the neighborhood and help out any way we can. Again, we want to be great community partners. We want to be successful together. If we need to, work on green stripes, we'd be happy to do that.
So you would be willing to work then with the city in terms of if there are some challenges to parking, if we start to get, say, complaints from people saying, oh, we don't have enough parking, now parking is worse than it was before, you'd be willing to work with us on addressing that?
Most definitely. What I found out is people always complain about parking, because they want to park right in front of their residence rather than across the street. So parking is a sensitive issue. You have to listen to the general concern of the people around and your neighbors, and you want to be a good neighbor. So we definitely move forward with making amends and making everybody that we can happy. So.
Okay.
In short, yes.
Thank you very much. And Mr. West, you had something to say?
I just want to indicate, Mayor and Council, that employees will not be parking on Tremont Street or in that adjacent lot, or else they will add to our revenue issues that we talked about earlier. Because of the restrictions in the street in that lot, they'll either have to park at the Civic Center or in Lot 23.
Thank you. And I guess thank you very much. I appreciate that. I actually feel much better about this project because of what you just said. My only remaining question, I guess, or issue is that generally speaking, public access under coastal, under Chapter 3 of the Coastal Act does include access via parking and impacts to parking. And so that's why I asked the questions, and not having it addressed at all in the staff reports is a problem for me. I think that if that discussion that we just had from Stone was included in the staff report so that we have it memorialized, it says that, in the future, if parking does become a problem, Stone has indicated they are willing to work with the city in terms of, making sure that those parking problems are addressed. That would have, I think, satisfied me. So I don't know if we can do an amendment to this report. I don't know. It just seems like it's not a complete report.
Well, again, Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Sanchez, this issue hasn't been addressed in previous CUPs for any restaurants or alcohol service in the past. But if it's the council's desire that we start implementing some language to that effect, we'd be happy to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I listened to Councilmember Sanchez speak. I remember the old Yogi Berra line, nobody goes there anymore, it's too crowded. So the idea that's the problem we want. We want a crowd down there. So I think just a couple of questions. It looks more like an apparel store. I mean, and obviously you're saying it's like a retail shop more than anything else. Everybody's moving towards the mic. Come on up. So just tell, for not only for us, but also for the people at home, what kind of business are you planning to do there? It's more of an apparel shop, the Stone apparel, I guess?
Apparel is actually a decent portion of our business. It helps us pay the bills. Currently, between the two stores that we're operating, it's about a 50-50 mix between the Growler Fills, Beer to Go, and the soft goods, as we call it. So, we do generate revenue from both avenues. The merchandise is a vital portion of that. It brings people in, that come to Stone from across the country. We are a tourist destination in Escondido, and people want to leave with a souvenir. I think them visiting, this proposed location, they would want to leave with a souvenir if we, show them what we're all about, which we're very capable of doing. So it's just an added feature that we really enjoy because we're very successful at what we do. So it's an important part of it.
Okay, I think that's what I was driving at, the idea this is not just some place to sit there and power down drinks. You're there to buy apparel, you're there to sample, and the items that you're going to buy, you're going to take home. I mean, the growlers and stuff. You have the IPA, right?
Sorry?
The IPA, you're going to have that, you're going to stock that?
Yes, we'll definitely have Stone IPA.
Well, when he was talking about people that are familiar with craft beer, he looked straight at me, and he understands that I'm probably the only beer drinker on the council, but I'm a big supporter of Oceanside Ale Works, and one of the things that if people remember back when Mayor Jerry Sanders of San Diego was talking about his State of the City address, that he wants San Diego to become the center of the craft beer industry. That was one of his goals for that region. So I think this is a good step forward. So I'm going to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving coastal conditional use permit RCUP 12-0002 and the regular coastal permit RRP 12-0001, and to allow for a Stone Company store located at 310 North Tremont Street.
Do we have a second? Thank you very much. With that, Councilmember Feline.
Well, Councilman Kern beat me to the punch to make the motion, but I'll proudly second it. This seems to be an excellent project for the downtown area that will fit in and part of our revitalization of our downtown area and making it a tourist attraction. So I definitely urge my colleagues for a yes vote, and happy to second.
Thank you. Please vote.
And you can bring samples anytime.
Motion approved, 3-1.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, when you have the opportunity, 21, please.
21, City Council approval of the fiscal year 2012-13 action plan of the 2010-2015 consolidated plan for housing and community development, and authorization to submit the fiscal year 2012-13 action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you. As mayor, I open this public hearing and ask for disclosures from council members.
None.
Staff.
Staff only.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, correspondence, petitions?
No correspondence.
Thank you very much. John, good evening again.
Good evening again, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is the annual project to present how we plan to use community development block grant funds and home investment partnership funds for housing and community development in the city. As you know from our presentation in March, when you adopted the budget for use of the funds, we had a 27% reduction in CDBG funds, a 50% reduction in home funds, and this reflects in what we're going to be able to do in the coming year. The action plan is a requirement to obtain the funds. It's been out for its 30-day public review. If you want, I can read the entire document to you, or I can sit down and wait for any questions.
Please have a seat, John. I thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
This is the time for the public to come forward if you wish to speak on this item. Come to either podium and please state your name and address.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Joan Brown, 511 Rockledge Street. These have come before you. I've been looking at these for about 4 years now, 4 or 5, over that, 2005. And usually the council just passes them and accepts them. And I kind of say, I think things should be different. And especially this year, I really think you have to look at this and scrutinize it as much as you did the fire department the other day. Boy, you really tore them apart. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about tonight was the public knowledge of this. I should know by now what month it comes on and all that. But I forget, and I know that it goes in the paper under public announcements. I know it's on for public display for a month, and it's been before you before and all this. But when you come and look at the meetings and who's invited to go over this when it's up for review, they can have all kinds of nonprofits and private and I don't know who in the staff, if George Buell's there or whatever, but in Vista, I read all three, Escondido, Vista, and Oceansides. And I have to say Vista has the best format because they put their name on every page. But what I want to get to is that I'm a nonprofit. I'm very interested in Crown Heights revitalization. I have given my name and OCNA's email to the Resource Center many times. And she always says, oh, we don't have it. Oh, it's come back. Anyway, what I'd like to discuss here is the $13 million for vouchers. The last time I heard, I think you have 1,600 people who are eligible for this. So that's almost 1% of our population. It's 160,000 people. And I think that's even more than LA's. And Escondido has 1,100. And they've broken it down where we just get the flat 13 million. It's not enough detail to know what's going on here. And there's no budget in here this year for the Sun Project. I'd like to know why there isn't, because I believe we've been, Crown Heights has said they were going to have it this year. And I wanted to talk about the safety and the traffic in Crown Heights that I don't think they address. And I think that we have the isolation of Crown Heights, being that CDBG funds are used to divide people up, to spread them around. And instead, Crown Heights get more condensed of the same problems we've had for the last, I don't know how many, 40 years I think it's all been Hispanic. So I think we have to address these things, and I hope that the council does ask questions this time and not just pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Ruben Almader. Once again, I just spoke earlier. I'm new to this, so I don't know how the funds and all of this works, but I do know Joan and a lot of the other neighborhood groups, and I'm not sure how the funds are dispersed or anything. But what I do want to mention is however the council or however the city goes about dispersing these funds, at a time when people are getting hurt and people are dying and people are really asking for help, and we're in a crisis as we are, all I ask is that hopefully Crown Heights isn't forgotten, and not only in whatever I've seen a revitalization or packet that had been put up previously, and I know that there's let's say for instance they want some things like parks in certain areas or certain neighborhoods, but I really hope that they don't. It's very important that if we have neighborhoods, let's say like East Side and Crown Heights, and you call them two different neighborhoods, but really it's the same, and with so much time going by and all the antagonism and considering it two neighborhoods, we're all just one city, and whatever is done with those funds, just one idea would be a sports park that's right in the middle. They already have Little League fields right there, where East Side and Crown Heights would be able to come together, and there's nothing that brings kids more together than sports, where it could be your worst enemy at one time, and then you're on the same team, and now you're best friends. So I'm not sure how it all works, the whole aspect of it, but however it is done, I do ask that you guys please make the best interest of the kids and everybody that it's going to affect. So like I said, I apologize if I'm off as far as how the funds work or whatever, but I think it's really important at this time that it be used the monies be used in a sense where it's going to provide something for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Law, 127 Sherry Lane. I think this is very appropriate with the 21 and 22. I don't know. I think the 22 should have preceded 21, in that I think there's a lot of elements that 22 need to be considered in order to be based upon to have the standing for 21, because a lot of the standards and conditions that will impact 21 will be from 22. And that is basically the affordable housing elements and how that will be developed in the future, because this is for the approval of 212 through 13 of the 2010 through 2015 consolidated plan for housing and community development. Now the question is how far for the affordable housing, and when does it implement come into play, and how quickly that we can do it. We are underneath right now a mandate to have basically, and for the next few years, essentially one home a day, one affordable home a day to be developed. People don't realize that, but that's what we're underneath a mandate to do. And this here, with the action plan, how much of that's being integrated into that? I don't think it is. I don't think there's much consideration into it. We also have one other consideration, like with the Laguna Vista. With that park being able to now coming out of the hands of the city, then it opens up a whole door, potentially, like say, with the whole parks, a number of mobile home parks. That would take, if we just took all the mobile home parks and made it a potential of making those privatized within the mobile home communities for the mobile home park owners, the homeowners themselves to own the parks, that would take and accomplish all the housing goals that there is for the city that has. I don't know if we've even looked at that potential, but it is a very good potential that we could do. This is another option that we are not taking. We're taking being too narrowly focused in our vision. And I think that we need to take and expand that out and doing a lot of more consideration into that. I do appreciate some of the areas I know that John has been active in and trying to help with for the mobile home rehab program. I do appreciate that definitely. But the other side is I think that we need to take and look at it from a broader scale. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item?
Madam Clerk, I see none. I'll close the public hearing. First, I'll go to you, John. Had questions regarding the money, where it goes, all the complications with the federal money, et cetera. Could you kind of briefly highlight some of their concerns and where it goes?
Yeah, one of the real issues that has to do with the Community Development Block Grant Program is that we are limited to no more than 15% of the entitlement for public services. Now, public services includes everything from senior services to child care programs to gang prevention programs. It also goes down to things like or activities like neighborhood cleanups and even the Sun Project to an extent. So we're really limited in how much money we can expand on particular services. There are many things we'd like to do, as the council faced in March, of having to eliminate funding for a number of agencies that we have long funded, so we're not supporting programs for abused and neglected children or battered spouses or homeless and runaway youth or emergency services for very low-income families. We simply can't spend the money beyond that, the HUD regulation. I would like to mention in particular about the question about the Section 8 housing. We put that number in there because it's an available one. This document, the annual action plan, does not specifically address the whole Section 8 housing choice voucher program. That really is covered by the Public Housing Agency plan that actually came before you in April. That details how that money is spent and all the other regulations that control that. We do right now have about 1,300 local vouchers plus 200 vouchers of families that have moved here, and those are families or households, not individuals. We do have approximately at this point, a 6-year waiting list. So someone who would apply for a voucher today might be called in the year 2018.
John, I guess my point is we had 2 speakers on Crown Heights.
With Crown
money
Heights,
didn't go there. It's an emergency. There's shootings. There's problems.
we have a couple of actually things going on in Crown Heights now. A number of years ago, the council actually approved funding for some infrastructure improvements in the Crown Heights neighborhood. We did not have to use the money at that time because the city was able to obtain money from what was called a neighborhood improvement program, which did a lot of work on streets and alleys. We are right now moving forward on a couple of plans. Haven't come before you yet because we don't have actual dates. We actually are going to replace 60 street lights in the Crown Heights neighborhood, moving them from, correct me, Honorable City Manager, from 150 to 250. That's wattage. I'm not the engineer here. But we are moving toward that to increase that. The money has already been set aside, and we are working with the city engineering staff on replacing all of those lights. We're also looking at some street safety improvements that actually are part of the bicycle and pedestrian master plans that were approved by the council some years ago. We're working with the transportation engineers on getting those improvements installed, and in particular to deal with some traffic issues around the bridge that goes over I-5 coming out of Division Street. We are still going to be funding the Community Resource Center. That's $93,000 of public service money to keep the Crown Heights Community Resource Center open. We're funding Community Housing Works.
John, I appreciate it. What I wanted, and we do consider to Crown Heights, but when we finish this particular item, if you will get with those people, explain some other details of what we're going to do and why the money goes to whatever, I appreciate it. And I appreciate it, Ms. Brown, and everybody else is concerned, because this is a hot spot in Oceanside. I understand that. That's why I asked the questions. Yeah. I appreciate that, John. With that, I close the public hearing. I come back with the council. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And there are lights that are being replaced. I believe if it's not happening now, it's going to happen very, very quickly. Those are to make it brighter. We did hear about that. And then the second part of it, and that's happening, as I said, immediately. And then the second part of that is to increase lighting in Crown Heights, so that actually put up lights, additional lights in Crown Heights as a safety factor. But you're right, Ruben, we need to do more. What we're about here today is the CDBG and trying to figure out the plan for the CDBG. What we're being told today is that we are getting 50% less in the home funds, so we're losing $400,000 there, and then we're losing $50,000 in the CDBG. So total, we've got $450,000 less this year than last year, and last year was another cut. So we are, Joan, we are trying to figure out, I think, how to maintain what we have been doing these past few years. We do have our 7th homicide since the couple over at Calle Montes, the very young couple that was that were killed in the park in Calle Montecito, and 3 of them. We just had the one this past weekend, but 3 of them have been solved. So this makes 4 that are not solved, and that puts a lot of pressure on our neighborhoods, on our folks, as like you, Ruben, as you spoke earlier this evening, our good folks who have, the families, trying to raise families in an area, in neighborhoods that have had this spike in crimes, especially violent crimes. So I understand the police have been upping the patrols, especially at night. I don't know how this one happened, honestly, but we just got to keep up the level of awareness. And I appreciate you, Ruben, and you, Joan, and you, Tim, for continuing to work on making our neighborhood safe. What we have before us is basically a paring down of what we're doing, but I know that we are very, very concerned about our crimes and ensuring that we keep our families safe, especially our kids. One of the things that I wanted to address, and I am going to move approval, but one of the things that I wanted to address is that in the staff report we talk about looking for projects and activities that are going to improve conditions and offer opportunities for the working poor, especially through job training activities and expansion of child care for low-income working families. One of the plans that we've had for Crown Heights and East Side, and there was this revitalization plan that was done a few years ago, is economic development. And so I do hope that we continue to look for grants for economic development. One of the things that we've been talking about, and we've started talking about, I should say, is the idea of getting a gourmet food truck and getting job training through that. In other words, the idea of running a business, the idea of teaching the kids how to be chefs. You know, the whole idea of a small business, running it, having employees, and then somehow pairing that up with, say, MiraCosta to teach our kids the idea of running a small business and at the same time employing some kids. So that's something that I think would be doable in the sense that it's a mobile kind of a unit. We were trying to figure out where in Crown Heights, where in East Side we can actually site an economic development project, and it's been difficult over the years to figure out where, you know, in terms of a location because of the cost of land. But having a mobile site, I'm asking staff to consider, you know, having a potential mobile business that we could partner with, say, MiraCosta, and perhaps even keep it at MiraCosta. I have not talked to MiraCosta about that yet, so please don't, you know, I don't want to step on any toes. But the idea of bringing a business opportunity for our youth, job training, learning how to run a business, and doing some positive things that way. Because my sense of it is that we're going to keep losing CDBG funds every year, right, John?
Yes.
So we've got to think of proactive things that we may be able to get funds for. Economic development was something that we've been talking about as a potential possibility for getting funds. So I'm moving approval, and I'm, you know, hoping that we continue to go forward, and we don't end up losing another person to the violence that we've seen a spike in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Feline.
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone's kind of beat me to my questions, so in lieu of that, I'm going to have to take up John on his offer to read the entire report. But I'll spare you that if you can answer these simple questions. Of the $93,000 spent on the community resources, how much carried 5 points to the right of the decimal point is spent on Crown Heights?
It's approximately divided equally between Crown Heights and the East Side for the Resource Center staff. So it's roughly about half. Okay.
And in terms of the Parks and Recreation items 1 and 2 for the roughly $18,000 each, is any of that specifically in Crown Heights programs?
None in Crown Heights, because we do not, Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Councilmember Feline, we don't have a recreation center in Crown Heights. So the programs, the youth programs and the For Kids' Sake are basically run out of the Joe Balderrama Center and the Melba Bishop Recreation Center. However, we do have in Crown Heights, and this is the support for North County Lifeline that runs a youth program out of the Crown Heights Resource Center. So it's not Parks and Recreation, but it is a program for the youth of the neighborhood.
And thank you. And I'd like to thank the residents from Crown Heights who came to speak to us. And and I want you to know that you have the support of the council to do whatever we have the power to do as a city to try and meet the challenges of that neighborhood. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
I'll second to approve.
Councilman Kern, please.
Thank you. I think, after talking, I think my question is answered. The Crown Heights Neighborhood Revitalization Program, we're spending $108,000 there. So, I mean, it's not like we're ignoring them. The idea that we are putting stuff into that community. Is it enough? Probably not. But we have a finite amount of money that keeps shrinking every single year. And I don't want, maybe you can speculate, John, what's going to look like next year? I mean, if we go on this trail of how it keeps getting smaller and smaller, what do you predict next year's allocations to CDBG will be?
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Councilmember Kern, the president's proposed budget for next year showed about a $200 million increase in the community development budget for HUD. As it came out of the Senate, it was reduced. What we're watching is that the group of 12 last year that was supposed to come up with a plan to reduce the overall federal deficit could not come to a conclusion, and the trigger there is that it was supposed to result in a 5% reduction for all discretionary programs. In talking with other community or CDBG managers across the county, we're all expecting and anticipating at least a 5% cut in the budget, in the overall budget, to the point that some of the smaller cities are considering withdrawing from the program and turning their money in effect back to the county, which is an option. The city of Poway, for example, could get CDBG money. They decided that the staff time was not worth it. In fact, in most of the smaller cities, the CDBG administration money nowhere near covers the cost of the program. And so they, Poway decided they just give it back to the county and get a certain amount from the county for capital projects. So we assume a 5% budget. The long-term future of the CDBG program does not, there are no great champions in Congress right now.
Okay. So I think it's something we're going to have to deal with for the next few years, and actually probably a glide path to eliminate that. And John, this is probably your last year making this presentation, so.
I am so told, yes.
So, yeah, because we just.
I'm not sure how far that rumor has gotten around, but in my last staff report, there was a sentence that said the reduction in CDBG funding for administration and planning will result in the elimination of one management analyst position. Not quite the same as saying it to brute, but kind of the same impact. And I've gone beyond, Honorable City Manager, my 3 minutes I promised.
So thank you. This is tough. I mean, the idea that we get these and we administer these grants, and they're all good grants, and it's getting harder and harder every year about how to allocate these grants. When I first got on the council, that was this big open process, and we moved money around, and we voted for different projects, and as time went on, it gets to the point that there's just nothing to divide anymore. Yeah. I mean, time you do all the in-house stuff and the stuff that you need, yeah, there's not a lot left over for those things that you would like to do. So, yeah, I think this is one of those things that we're going to have to look beyond this and figure out how we're going to supply those services to those communities without CDBG.
And in this, Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Councilmember Kern, earlier tonight you honored Linda Wood, who's retiring at the end of this week. She and Brendan Mangan were working actually until 7:30 last night to meet a 9 o'clock deadline to submit another grant application to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. They have gotten money both from Department of Justice and from the state of California that actually help support youth programs in Cayo Montecito, in the East Side, and in Crown Heights. So we're looking more and more toward other ways to do this. So there is a very aggressive approach to seek out grants that both work on suppression but also on intervention and prevention.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-0.
Thank you very much. With that, Madam Clerk, when you have a moment, please. Item 22, please.
Could we take a short break, Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Could we take a short break?
Oh, I'm sorry, you did ask me. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick 5-minute break. If you haven't been there before, outside, up the stairs, water and restrooms. Thank you. I'm sorry. Get started again, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we needed to have a quick break there, but Madam Clerk, item number 22, please.
Item 22 is introduction of a zone amendment and the consideration of a local coastal program amendment to amend Section 3032 Affordable Housing Density Bonus of the 1992 zoning ordinance and establish the amended text as part of the implementing document of the local coastal program in order to bring the city's affordable housing density bonus provisions into conformance with state law. Underscore the city's authority to allow the off-site provision of required affordable units and provide additional flexibility for land donation in exchange for density bonus. The proposed zoning text amendments would apply citywide, including within the coastal zone and the downtown area, and introduction of an ordinance and adoption of a resolution to effect these amendments.
Thank you very much. As the mayor, I open this public hearing and ask for disclosure from the council members. Again, Gary, I'll go with you.
Staff, public, industry representatives.
Basically, staff.
Staff.
Staff, and I think we received a letter via email and some public.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, to the correspondence petitions.
We received a letter from James Schmid and from the BIA, which council has copies of.
Thank you very much. Good evening. How are you today? Looking pretty sharp, by the way.
Mayor Wood, council members, good evening. Russ Cunningham, senior planner. You'll recall that we discussed density bonus on 2 occasions last year in the context of the council's consideration and ultimate adoption of a new method of calculating the city's affordable housing in lieu fee. In light of the public dialogue we've already had on this issue, the presentation tonight is not a density bonus 101, though I'm certainly available to answer any questions you may have about the basics of this state-mandated program. I'll just take a moment to remind everyone of how this issue has evolved. I'll quickly summarize how we go about complying with state density bonus law. We'll identify the few areas where both staff and the Planning Commission recommend some additional flexibility in our local density bonus provisions, and I'll close by very briefly discussing a few of the implications of the proposed changes. As for how we got here, in the course of this body's deliberations on alternative calculations of the in lieu fee, the council directed staff to convene an ad hoc committee to explore voluntary incentives to affordable housing that would augment our overall affordable housing strategy. That ad hoc committee met 6 times last year between March and October, and considered a variety of options for promoting affordable housing development, including the enhancement of the city's density bonus provisions. Throughout the ad hoc committee's deliberations, the Planning Division maintained a regular dialogue with the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, which is responsible for certifying the city's housing elements. In a moment, as part of the presentation, I'll mention how input from HCD has influenced the proposal that's before you this evening. So turning to state law, State Bill 1818, adopted in 2005, essentially lowered the eligibility thresholds for density bonus. And those are the percentages established there of affordability that must be provided in order to achieve a density bonus at a certain percentage. State law also was amended to establish a maximum density bonus of 35%. The density bonus range under state law is 20% to 35% on a sliding scale, essentially, based on the percentage of affordability that a project proposes. The state added land donation in exchange for density bonus as an option, and I'll speak a little bit to local provisions, proposed local provisions that would afford some additional flexibility with land donation. The state also established thresholds for additional concessions or incentives to be granted by the locality in exchange for density bonus, with up to 3 concessions or incentives essentially mandated by the state based on the percentage of affordability proposed. Those concessions could be flexibility in development standards, reduction in limitations created by lot coverage standards, landscape requirements, private open space requirements, height requirements, setback requirements. Could also include incentives of a monetary or financial nature. The state also established parking maximums that essentially prohibit the city from requiring more parking than is specified by state statute. And those parking maximums are inclusive of guest parking and handicap parking. The state also established density bonus in exchange for child care facilities with a 1-to-1 ratio between the square footage of the child care facility and the amount of additional square footage that would be granted to a project. And finally, the state statute provides for a waiver of development standards that are deemed to be that are deemed to render density bonus at whatever percentage is sought infeasible. We have not spoken with any jurisdictions that have had a waiver requested of them, and we think by and large the concessions and incentives component of density bonus law would address issues of the feasibility of a project and the extent to which regulatory concerns might impact the feasibility of a project. As I mentioned, staff and the Planning Commission are recommending essentially enhancements to our density bonus provisions that go a little bit beyond state law. These enhancements come largely out of the dialogue with the ad hoc committee last year. And as I mentioned, we're looking at greater flexibility for land donation. The parameters for land donation under state law are quite strict. Unless land is either contiguous to the project site or within a quarter mile of the project site, unless it is at least an acre, and unless it can accommodate at least 40 dwelling units, it is not eligible under state law in exchange for donation. State law essentially says localities don't have to accept land in exchange for density bonus unless it meets those parameters. We're proposing that those parameters be loosened just a bit in this way. Staff is recommending, Planning Commission is recommending that land donation be an acceptable option when that land is of a size and capacity under zoning to accommodate the number of affordable units required in exchange for the sought density bonus. Staff and the Planning Commission are also recommending that in the event that the donated land is not contiguous to the density bonus project site, is not within a quarter mile of that project site, that such land still be donatable if it falls within a transit-served area, defined essentially as areas that are within a quarter mile of rail transit or high-frequency bus service, which would be 15-minute headways. I can share with you a map that conceptually shows where those areas would be currently, given NCTD bus service and the presence of the Sprinter and the Coaster Line. State density bonus law also says that land donation only has to be accepted in exchange for density bonus when it is made available for very low-income households. We think it appropriate to allow land donation for the provision of housing that is attending to the needs of both very low-income households and low-income households. Those are two different categories of need. And then the other area where we're suggesting some flexibility is in terms of where the affordable units that are required in exchange for density bonus would be located. And we're advocating, along with the Planning Commission and the Ad Hoc Committee, that there be an allowance under relatively strict parameters for off-site provision of required affordable units in exchange for density bonus. HCD staff, in our conversations with them last year, expressed concern about the city providing a prescriptive path for applicants to essentially gain a by right allowance for the off-site provision of affordable units under the auspices of density bonus. with the implication that density bonus is intended to promote truly inclusionary housing, essentially the physical integration of market rate and affordable units within the same project on the same site. Staff responded to this concern by pointing out that the model state density bonus ordinance includes an allowance for the off-site provision of affordable units, and that the city of Encinitas has recently approved the off-site provision of affordable units in conjunction with density bonus for several market rate single-family projects. This response eventually gained a somewhat grudging acceptance from HCD that the city has the legal wherewithal to allow off-site provision as long as this allowance is at the city's discretion and not simply a by right allowance that the applicant can gain by simply meeting a set of standard codified requirements or conditions. So we're confident that as expressed in our local ordinance, which is essentially language verbatim out of the state model density bonus ordinance, that we will not run afoul of HCD over this issue. Again, the off-site provision would be solely at the city's discretion, not a categorical allowance, and only when the city can make the finding that the off-site provision of affordable units is in the public interest. Just a couple of considerations. With respect to discretionary review, it's important to point out that any otherwise required entitlements for a density bonus project would still be required. Development plan approval, conditional use permit approval, whatever might be required. We could not require a variance or a general plan amendment to exceed the density, but those other entitlements would still be required, public hearing would be required, and the city would have the discretion to approve or deny the project or condition the project accordingly. As you know, the city of Oceanside has density ranges that run from a base to a maximum. We are currently exploring, as I believe you know, we are exploring the prospect of affordability standards that are specific to projects that propose densities above the base and below the maximum. So they wouldn't qualify for density bonus, but would be exceeding the base allowance under the city's zoning standards. And that will be coming before you soon. We will be meeting this month with an ad hoc committee of the Planning Commission to refine recommendations that came out of a public workshop that was conducted on the 3rd of April. And we should be able to get back to this body at some point this summer with those recommendations from the Planning Commission. As far as the efficacy of density bonus, it has rarely been sought or implemented in Oceanside. There was a cluster of density bonus projects in the early 80s. There was one in the decade of the 90s, and there have been two since the turn of the century. And virtually all of those projects involved 100% exclusively affordable projects, and almost all of them involved senior housing, affordable senior housing. Other cities, I'll just mention San Diego, Los Angeles have seen a lot of density bonus projects. And should you be interested, I can talk about why those projects are more attractive in other jurisdictions than they have been here in Oceanside. Program 3 of our current housing element establishes the updating of our density bonus ordinance as an action item. We are fulfilling that action item tonight. And so that should support us in our efforts to certify our next housing element, which is required to be adopted by the city in roughly a year, in April of 2013. That concludes my comments, other than a thank you to the ad hoc committee, the stakeholders who participated in this process, City Attorney Mullen, who asked some very difficult questions and helped us craft the ordinance. Thank you. I'm available.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a seat at the sidebar in case I come back to you. Madam Clerk.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item?
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I've attended almost all the hearings that I've been able to attend, and I've seen a few of you at the meetings, and I appreciate your attendance as well. But there's basically about 4 or 5 points I need to make. First off, the question of off-site provision of affordable units. If it is done, we must avoid concentrations that can lead to impacts that essentially could take and develop something that has been called like ghettoization. And it can only be acceptable if, and only if, there is increased community services and increased parkland, and it must be done in a fair, equitable, impartial means with mixed classes. It cannot take and be just only for a low-class group of individuals with a certain economic income. It has to be inclusive of all groups. Otherwise, it becomes prejudicial. 2, we are at stage 3 or 4 city development, essentially with our build-out, because we do have a lot of restriction on land use within the city. And in that type of scenario, in redevelopment, there's only one way of doing it. And we heard a presentation earlier by Ms. Filer, and that is that there's some objection to it, but there's only one way to do, and that's build up. That's the only way you can go. Either you freeze everything or you build up. And then that you can designate, as in other cities, open airspace, low-income areas. You do have that right. Other cities have done that. The third point, under ADA law, it says handicap parking must not be included as part of the count. However, it must be set aside and included in the project. Staff constantly misinterprets this. I've checked with other disabled activists, and I will say that they are standing by to watch what the city does. They have the right under law to take and file court cases. They are willing and able to do such. And they have proceeded in some of those cases to collect quite a beneficial amount of money for their filings. Another thing, point 4, the reason why we have no building of mobile home parks in a city here is that part of the reason is the city has chosen not to take its housing funds and build mobile home parks. So the city itself is at fault for making sure that there is no mobile home parks being built. I wish to be put on the record. Thank you.
Good evening, Joan Brown, 511 Rockledge Street. I believe that Carlsbad does it right. If you're going to build, 15% of it goes to affordable housing. And that should be done then and not in lieu of fees like we've done for all these years. And the problems we have in the city are from not overbuilding, but putting too many houses in a little area. I just went by Libby Lake today and thought, what a shame. And of course we have Crown Heights where they definitely put too many people, 6,000 people living in 4 blocks or something. I would like to have kind of a mock situation of how transactions go, because I really don't understand all the words, that are used for this density bonus. I can't see when I compare that affordable housing mixed use down there on Mission, and then the one Mission Cove is going up, to put all those apartments so close to Mission Boulevard with no trees, no landscaping, is just, if we have more of that, you're just going to get more blight. It isn't going to work. It's going to turn into from affordable to nobody wants to live there, and then it'll be renting. And our biggest problem in Oceanside, as far as rehabilitation or revitalization, are our rental units. Because once they sell, or they don't sell, they just rent them out and make a lot of money, because we are an oceanfront community. And we're making all these affordable housing for people to live at the beach. I don't believe that's right. Thank you very much.
Members of the City Council, my name is Michael McSweeney. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for the Building Industry Association, and this is my first time to address you as a council since I was hired last November. I'd like to first off commend staff for working with us. Even when we had disagreements, they were always cooperative, and they would listen, and we found ways to work together to achieve something that we can support. I wanted to address a couple things that were just pointed out to you about inclusionary housing and some of the statements that were made. They're quite frankly not true. The types of inclusionary housing that we took your staff on a tour of to show them, allow them to kick the tires and actually see what's been built, is the kind of projects that you would not say, you'd say, I'd live here. First of all, they're dedicated for 55 years. They just can't be turned over. Very strict requirements about it. And what we did was at the workshop with the Planning Commission, we had people from our industry give the Planning Commissioners a tutorial on how affordable housing is built and the financing involved with it and why it is so difficult. The important thing about this density bonus from our point of view is the ability to be able to do projects off-site. Because when you build, and you must build one unit here or 2 units here, it's economically not feasible. And the thing about the affordable projects that your staff was taken on a tour of is the people that build them also manage them. And since they are for people that make 60% or less of the income, they're professionally managed, and they don't take any guff from people. If people are tearing up the place and not behaving, they're booted out because there's a line around the block of people that want that type of housing. So if you're interested and want any of the addresses, or you wanted to see any of these projects, I'm sure that we could arrange that for you. But I'm here tonight to ask for your support and approval of the density bonus as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council, Mayor.
Hold the mic up.
Okay. I just had a question. As far, like I said, I'm new to this, so I don't know all the logistics. But one of my questions is on this type of affordable housing, and you're talking about building. Does any of these projects look at any existing structures that are already there, as far as restoring them and remodeling them and using properties that are already existing in an area that's so congested already? Or is it just are we just talking about building something brand new?
Staff, just go ahead and answer.
So it's more of a question.
Generally speaking, we're talking about new construction, but there are provisions in our code or in our proposal and in state law that allow for density bonus in condominium conversion. Mm-hmm. If someone were to seek to convert rental property to for sale property, they could essentially achieve more units within that building envelope of that existing apartment building if they were willing to restrict under affordability covenants a certain percentage of those new for sale units in the condominium conversion.
Okay. The reason I'm asking, and I'm sure you guys would understand, is, as you said, we're a beach community. You know, Crown Heights, right there. When I bought my house, I bought it, obviously like everybody, as an investment, and unfortunately, it's gone, it's gotten pretty bad. But as far as the existing buildings, I'm not an analyst. I don't have all the knowledge that you have as far as how it goes to building affordable housing. But I have noticed that they have remodeled and redone existing buildings and converted them into condominiums where they're beautiful and we're right next to the beach. And from what you were just mentioning, I'm not sure if that would be one of the considerations, considering some of the properties that are already around here, to be able to have an incentive where you'd be able to convert them into condominiums. And it seems like something where everybody would prosper and it would help out the whole community. But I don't know if that's what you were saying. But I just think that would be one way to go about it, as far as being able to utilize an existing community that we already have and be able to help bring a positive change. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Madam Clerk, I see now close the public hearing and come back to the council. Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. I just, reading the staff report and reading what's behind it, basically we're coming into compliance with state law for the most part. There's a few little tweaks in it, but I don't think there are any anything major that comes about that. So I'm going to move that we introduce an ordinance amending the Oceanside zoning ordinance by modifying the city's density bonus provisions related to affordable housing and adopt a resolution approving a local coastal plan to the amendment.
Is there a second? Thank you. Have a second.
So there's not much else I can really say. You know, the staff report is very thorough. I think it was to Russ's compliment, even though he did compliment the city attorney. I think Mr. Hiddleman and his staff did a very good job putting this all together. So I think it was very thorough. It kind of tell you everything you needed to know about that. I was a little fascinated about the child care bonus thing that, you know, on a per square foot basis. So if you build a 10,000 square foot child care facility, you get 10,000 feet of housing that you can build. So, which is, and when we talk about Mission Cove, I think at one time there, I don't know what the plans are now, but there was some plan in there for child care or some daycare facility. So that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, of course, we need to get into compliance with state law, and I know that we've been wanting to do that for quite some time. Even and as the staff report indicated, even if we hadn't changed it, we would have to comply regardless of whether we submit this or not, whether we approve this or not. My concern is this. I grew up in this community. I went to Oceanside High, class of '74, and we did not have those high-density buildings behind the football field. We did not have a Crown Heights situation. And what my concern is about this is we do not have a plan yet for where it would go. Yes, we talked about along transportation routes, but what safeguards do we have that we're not going to create another Crown Heights? That this is not going to be in all concentrated in one neighborhood, that we're not going to, this is all off-site, that we're not going to be having banks of building low-income neighborhoods and just developers just, selling those rights and having, creating the project they want, of course, want good projects in Oceanside. This is home. This is home for now 5 generations. Yes, we have to make room for more folks, and I certainly would like to together raise the bar in terms of architecture and making the city really unique. I know you probably hear that from every city, but we're here to tell you that we want this in our city. But what guarantees do we have, or what protections do we have? What protections can we have to ensure that we're not going to create another Crown Heights, a community that, basically is challenged, where you have good folks like Ruben trying to make the community a good place, yet because of the densities in there, it's the highest density in the city. Is that correct? I often hear that this is where it's the highest density. It is the most mobile in terms of the constant moving of a certain, percentage of the population. Ruben's been there for 10 years or so, and there are families like that in Crown Heights. But how are we? What are we going to do? What can we do to ensure that we don't do that again?
Councilmember Sanchez, I think the principal safeguard in place against the concerns that you're mentioning is the discretionary review process, which is not compromised by state law. Those entitlements that would otherwise be required would still be required. The public process would still be required for these.
So we don't have objective criteria. We just have this very subjective. You get 3 votes. You get, you waive some contributions to a campaign, and you get a project through. Not to be, facetious about it, but we can't come up with any objective criteria that's going to ensure that it doesn't have to be 3 council, just 3, and so subjective that, we can create. And I'm sure it was an accident. Let me tell you, I'm sure nobody thought that we were going to have Crown Heights at the time that those buildings were approved. I don't remember when they were, but it wasn't in 74. It was beyond that time. And here we are, investing huge amounts of resources to address public safety concerns.
City Attorney wishes to respond, please.
In addition to the discretionary review, it's probable that any applicant that wants a density bonus is also going to need a concession or incentive. State law obligates you to grant a specified number of incentives or concessions for them to utilize the density bonus unit, but there are required findings that have to be made, and you could, not approve a concession or incentive if one of these specific findings are met. For instance, if it's not needed economically, if the specific finding is the concession or incentive is not required in order to provide for affordable housing costs as defined in the Health and Safety Code. There's also public health and safety criteria.
Right. Well, I guess I'm looking for more than that. With all due respect, I understand the developer community likes bright lines. You want to know what you can build and where, and what the maximum is. And if you can go to the maximum, that's what you're going to do, because that is going to maximize your profitability. My concern is, how do we safeguard our community from more Crown Heights? Besides, blaming 5 or maybe 3 people back in whatever the 80s, what else can we do? Is there anything that you would suggest?
If I could, I'll speak to the context of Crown Heights and the fact that zoning in that area currently somewhat belies the nature of development there. In that, I think you're absolutely right, Councilmember Sanchez, that may be the most dense community in the city. Current zoning there, under the 1992 zoning ordinance, is primarily single family. That area was essentially downzoned through that new ordinance in the early 90s. And so density bonus would mean something very different there now under the current zoning. And it's likely that even with a 35% density bonus allowance, one could not reconstitute a lot of the higher density rental development that's in that community now.
I'm still hearing, discretion. What about the issue regarding ensuring that these are not concentrated in one place? We're talking about off-site, that we don't start to develop low-income neighborhoods. What about that?
When we started the discussion with the ad hoc committee, there was unanimity on this particular point. The affordable housing developers, for and nonprofit, the market rate developers, the affordable housing advocates, were all advocating for this off-site allowance. And for the most part, they wanted it to be allowed essentially by right. They wanted applicants to be able to meet objective criteria, and through fulfillment of that criteria, be able to go off-site, again, by right. Where we've ended up is somewhere very different, where it would be entirely at the city's discretion to allow or not allow off-site, and we would have to make, the city would have to make, decision makers would have to make a specific finding that is in the public interest to allow that off-site provision.
Well, how do we limit the amount of affordability so that we limit the amount of affordable homes in a concentration? How can we ensure that it's evenly distributed so it's not, the whole idea behind on-site is so that you can't really tell it's from the outside. Sure, you use probably materials that cost a little less. You may not build everything that you built for the market rate housing, but you can't tell from the name. That's what Carlsbad does, and I'm a little jealous of Carlsbad that is able to do that. So, how do we, if we're not going to require on-site building on-site affordability, how can we guarantee that we're not going to concentrate it in one place? And perhaps the gentleman from the BIA might be able to respond to that as well. Mr. McSweeney, do you think you can?
Sure. The way it's been explained to me, and sitting through the Planning Commission tutorial by the gentleman, it's a very successful for-profit affordable housing developer. When you're saying that they use a little bit less expensive materials and stuff, if I were to take you in a car and spend 5 hours with you like we did with the staff and take you to these, and we would first drive up to the building, first of all, you wouldn't be able to tell that it's low-income housing. And it's not low-income housing, it's affordable housing. Number two is when you walk through the units and you see them, they're professionally managed. It looks like any other for-rent community. And one of the reasons we took staff on this tour was because there was a mention, well, we don't want those kind of projects. And actually going out and kicking the tires is very illustrative because it takes away any preconceived stereotypes that you might have. And as far as, locating them in a theoretical model, inclusionary housing sounds wonderful. The reality is it's very difficult to achieve, very expensive,
right,
and it's not efficient. This is, and like I said, maybe sometime to allow the council to sit through a workshop and see that tutorial. It would be very illustrative for you because it really gives you a grasp of the dynamics of what is in the marketplace and how do we get there from here. And it's very complicated with the tax financing and, it's, and I can understand public perception like yours is, oh my God, we're going to build these horrible places, but they're not like that.
I appreciate your comments up until that part because with all due respect, it's not perception because I live in Eastside, okay? It is based on living here and seeing things that happen like Crown Heights. So that's my concern is the concentration of affordable housing. And I don't know if there would have been a Calle Montecito if we hadn't, cut down or targeted as a place where, for affordable housing. I don't know that. But thank you very much for your comments. And maybe staff, do you have another response to that?
Councilmember Sanchez, I'd like to point out that a number of inclusionary projects really do occur on the site where you're doing the market rate housing. So this is just one option to go off-site. It doesn't mean every project would go off-site with their affordable housing. And then if you were to look at the map where the affordable housing can go, it's a very broad cross-section of the community. It goes all the way out to the eastern part of the community on Mission Avenue and also around the transit stations. So I don't think we'll see a concentration. They have a broad range of the community where these units can go.
All right, well, my last question is this. OCNA came forward and talked about, they didn't like the row houses in the neighborhood. They said, you know what, this is not the fit. This does not fit in character with our community. And we were working towards doing an overlay for South O and for the, the area covered by, by OCNA. And I guess that's still a work in progress. So how does that work out in terms of maintaining the character of a neighborhood, which is, single family, and you just talked about how Crown Heights was zoned single family, but lo and behold, we got a density project there, and perhaps, but for that we wouldn't have a Reuben. Of course, we want to have Reubens, but how do we work this into our desire to ensure that we preserve the character of our neighborhoods?
Well, again, we don't have anything in the ordinance right now, but I think first of all, when the projects come in, staff will review them to a very great degree and ensure that that does not happen, that we don't have a concentration, and then it goes to the Planning Commission and then the City Council if it were to be appealed to the City Council. So I think given all these safeguards and the broad area where these projects can occur, I think we'll be
okay. So your response is it's a discretionary. We'll have be able to review this, and 3 people will decide. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. two gentlemen here, George in the back. Does this sound reasonable to you? Or would this sound reasonable to you?
Mayor Wood, yes, definitely.
George? Thank you. And that's what I like to hear, people from staff, number one. Number two, when this first came up, I was approached by the BIA and other people about trying to improve the economy for the people that work out there. I think we all want to see everybody working. I was a little surprised in a Sandag retreat, though. I don't know if you hear it. Sandag retreat regarding this density bonuses regarding transit corridors, and where the speech came out and said it wasn't going to fit because the kind of people that would live there and afford there aren't going to be the people that take mass transit. It's the first time I had a meeting where they were telling me different stories about what's going on, and that was at the retreat. That was interesting for me, but to have people back at work, the people who should have been building these affordable housings for years and years should have been the BIA and other people like that, not especially nonprofits. You're the experts, not nonprofits, but all of a sudden we see a change. You're the people that should be building houses. My concern is somewhat like everybody else's, including Councilmember Sanchez. I don't want pockets of blight or low-income blighted communities. By that I mean I've seen some in Oceanside, some of our apartment complexes, is that when this first came up, my big complaint to anybody was off-site. Now you've answered some of my questions that there's some guidelines and some ways to address this. You can imagine my thought was, well, you build a nice market values here and you push all of your affordable low income off-site, and now I have a slum area. Well, I see there are some guidelines for that. The Housing Department and Housing Commission were on board for this because I know they said on the committee and commission, Kay Parker, this is some houses saying yes, no. That's what I thought, and I appreciate that. One of my point is, I think the review process is very important to you and the staff, that you see that we get some good projects that look good for what they are. I agree with you, the ones I've seen around the county, and I did go to them before when I got on Housing Department, as the staff on site makes the whole thing. I agree, if you have staff there that tells people you're not fitting in, you're causing commotions, you're a problem, you're out of here, the chances of those people ever getting affordable housing or low-income housing is gone for 5 years at least. So they're not going to mess around, and I think that's part of it, and I think we have to have staff make sure that's what's happening. On the other hand, like I say, I was really worried about the off-site provision, but I knew you guys had addressed some of it. I don't know how to get around the fact that whatever voting majority on this or any other council can change things or vote whatever comes in. I think that I've had a lot of feedback from the Housing Commission, other people, that considering all factors, they think this is thumbs up and okay. When it moves forward, I'd like to see that. I know at Sandag and other places, we see that the trend is smaller, lighter, more density, cost-wise, savings, mainly on transportation corridors. I understand that. But we also have staff, and as the council have to watch out that they're not all put on those sites. They're spread out all over the city. And I know there's people out there saying affordable housing is important, and we need to address that. I know we're not going to be able to get the low-income people in all of these too, but just like in Crown Heights, it became an apartment complex area, high density, turned it into a real problem, and that's why I think we need to look at this and keep it in mind for the future. And I think everybody should work, maybe BIA or anybody else, but I also want to understand that we get to hear from the neighborhoods about the negative sides of it, and we do get to hear from them, and we'll pass that on to staff and concerns that we have about how the city's going forward. This is a beautiful beach community, and I know we have to address it. I know a lot of the housing issues now have really been taken on by the military, building more and more on base for the low-income affordable housing for the base. So I think it's kind of a positive, but it better remain that way, or we'll change it back to something. I know we're in the situation we have to go along with the state requirements and regulations. but I was happy to have you explain the off-site provisions, and I know that was an argument in the committee. So there are some guidelines you moved in, and I appreciate that from staff and everybody who sat on the commission. I know it was a tough item. But with that, if there's no more speakers, I guess we have to make a decision and vote, so let's please vote.
I gotta introduce it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, you tell me and I forget all the time. It's called dementia.
This is an introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Article 30, Section 3032 of the 1992 Oceanside Zoning Ordinance, and adding Article 40 of the 1986 Oceanside Zoning Ordinance, modifying the city's density bonus provisions to comply with Government Code Section 65915.
Thank you very much. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-1.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. Madam Clerk, have we done everything?
We are done.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to close with a moment of silence for Esther, for your friend, and if you want to mention it again, and for Junior Sile and his family. For a moment of silence,
Laura Hedstrom.
Thank you very much, and that's a sad thing for Oceanside and the family, so we appreciate that. And after that, we'll adjourn to Wednesday, May 16th, 2012, 2 o'clock here at the council meeting. But for a moment of silence, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Be safe, be careful.